This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to a big Monday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, where we will break down a ugly weekend for the Winnipeg Jets, dropping Friday night's game in San Jose and last night's game to the Anaheim Ducks. Jets now on a 3-game losing streak after that 9-3 start and halfway through a 6-game West Coast road trip that so far has yielded 0 points out of 3 games. Murat is going to join us from Southern California. He was in the rink last night. Talk about what he saw over the course of this weekend and what this team needs to do to get some better results going into Seattle, Vancouver, and Calgary over the course of the rest of this road trip. Of course, we're looking forward to welcoming in Canadian football fans from coast to coast to the Peg this week for the Grey Cup. And the stage is set for 112 from 2 thrilling finals on the weekend. The Montreal Alouettes walk off the Hamilton Tiger Cats to win the East. And maybe even a more exciting finish in the West as the Riders storm back in the final minute to go ahead and beat the British Columbia Lions to set up a Montreal-Saskatchewan final next Sunday here at Princess Auto Stadium. We'll, of course, be all over that all week long, but Justin Dunk is going to join us from 3 Down Nation. Look forward to talking to Dunk about what we've got coming up. And, of course, the other big story that is being reported is the Argos have received permission to talk to Bomber head coach Mike O'Shea. I know there's already some concern in the chat about that. We will get to that coming up right away. Hear a little bit more from the Winnipeg Jets. Connor will join us later on. We'll break down what happened in the National Football. You can get ready for a big Monday nighter tonight between the Eagles and the Packers at Lambeau Field. Huge thanks to all of the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. And, of course, our friends that are with us in the chat right now and everyone listening on the podcast as well. Let's get Michael Remis in here and get the show on the road. Remo, playing a little hurt today, I'll be honest. Not at full capacity. Hopefully we'll be feeling better as we get ready for Grey Cup weekend. But the flight of our hockey team didn't make me feel better on the weekend, I'll tell you that much.
No, Huss, it was certainly a rough one for the Winnipeg Jets. Now on a 3-game losing streak, losing San Jose on Friday and losing again last night to Anaheim. And the common thread between those teams, young, rebuilding, have had high draft picks, and it's amazing now when you look at the NHL's points leaders, who's in, occupying 3 spots of the top 5. You have Leo Carlson, who's a top pick from the Ducks, Macklin Celebrini, we saw on Friday, top pick for San Jose, and also Connor Bedard, who we saw in Winnipeg, actually, as well. The Jets defeating the Blackhawks in that one. But you're seeing these young superstars emerge, and the Jets got a good look at 2 of them over the weekend in California. And, for the last, the California road trip, very tough in the mid-2000s. We had the Cup, LA Kings. You had San Jose, always going to conference final, and Anaheim as well. They won the Cup in 2007, were Cup contender. And there was a lull the last couple of years where that road trip it was very winnable with San Jose and Anaheim. Not so much anymore. So when you look at what we saw this weekend with the Winnipeg Jets going into San Jose and losing, and going up against Anaheim, who's now on a 7-game win streak. So if you weren't paying attention before, these are some of the most exciting teams up and coming in the NHL.
Yeah, listen, first things first. I mean, just because we're going to spend a lot of time breaking down what was and wasn't happening for the Winnipeg Jets. Both of those teams, San Jose and Anaheim, are a hell of a lot of fun to watch. I mean, San Jose is probably further away from it than Anaheim is. But, man, I think I spent half of my Saturday conversations talking about Macklin Celebrini. I mean, the goal that he scored on Connor Hellebuck, I mean, that's world class. The speed to be able to, hold off Josh Morrissey at full bore, make that move on Helly and tuck it in behind a 3-time Vezina Trophy winner. He's incredible. Will Smith, great. And I mean, listen, they deserve that win. I mean, they really stepped it up, and this will be probably a common theme. I mean, the Jets, poor in the neutral zone, in transition, giving up a lot, and Scott Arniel not pleased afterwards. I believe to see Joe B, he said, what you saw was a very poor game from the Winnipeg Jets. To the point, Reem, we'll talk about this with Murat later on. I mean, he basically dropped a nuke into the lines, completely splitting up Connor, Scheifele, and Velarde onto 3 different lines for the third period in a game that was still very, very tight.
Yeah, you don't see that too often, Huss, where they're mixing up all the lines, and both games just couldn't really get anything going. And especially yesterday, you saw the speed of Anaheim and you saw the talent from San Jose. It was tough, and big concern. 1 goal in 3 games from the Winnipeg Jets. I think you can talk about defense and being able to defend, but they couldn't score either in the power play, which was a strength of this team, and special teams. They were not that over this last stretch. So, the Jets, their last, 3-game losing streak was late November of 2024. Maybe it's a yearly thing where it's November, like you're seeing with the Oilers, and you take a bit of a back seat. But Scott Arniel is trying to be proactive and, plugging the drain here and making sure this doesn't go from a 3-game losing streak into a 4-game losing streak. So we'll see how they react tomorrow. But a weekend that we haven't seen for a while from this team.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, we'll get to this in just a minute, but, the very unusual, I would say, early season off day included 24 one-on-one meetings with Scott Arniel and every member of the Winnipeg Jets. So we'll touch on that, and we'll hear from Arnie in a minute. Of course, Remo, we do have a Grey Cup matchup, Saskatchewan and Montreal. Once again, as always, the CFL playoffs deliver 2 incredible finishes, and we've got a hell of a matchup for next Sunday here in the Peg.
Yeah, I was looking forward to the QB matchup of Nathan Rourke versus Davis Alexander, but I will take the Rough Riders, and I'm anticipating a lot of green to be at Princess Auto Stadium on Sunday. And credit to the Riders. They had an amazing season. They were first all year. They took advantage of the bye, and they won a very, very close one on Saturday against BC. And Montreal Hamilton, I expected a lot more scoring in that one, but Davis Alexander remains undefeated. I do have questions about his health. Huss, he was limping around at the end, finished the game, says no doubt he'll be able to play, but we saw him have a hamstring injury earlier this year, and he came back early and re-aggravated it to sit out more, but great quarterback, 2 great teams. I am really looking forward to this matchup, what should be a great week leading up to Sunday here in Winnipeg with the festival taking place, and also a game between two great teams. So, it's too bad the Bombers are not in. We're not able to get to a 6th straight Grey Cup, but this should be a great game and very close in terms of what the Coolbet has the line at.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I kind of found myself pulling for Saskatchewan, which sounds crazy, just because I think that would make for a more fun week here in Winnipeg with Rider fans coming in to see them play. But I felt pretty gutted for Rourke. But, and I saw some BC Lions fans saying that that's the worst loss. That's like the Jays getting to so close in Game 7. They had that so many opportunities in the final 3 minutes just to put that game away. Like, I still can't believe Corey Mace kicked a field goal with under 3 minutes left, down 7, when they were on 3rd and goal on the 5, and yet it ended up working out for him.
Yeah, I think that's just a rare time that it worked out. You can't be kicking the ball back to Nathan Rourke. It seems silly, but they were able to stop him at the key critical moments. It's very shocking, but Saskatchewan has had a great defense all year. We saw there were some games in the middle of the season where they had a lot of DBs out, and they gave up a ton of points. That wasn't the case. They took advantage of the bye week. They took advantage of resting starters in their final games of the regular season, so they had it locked up. They were able to be healthy, and it went down to a final video review of Neild grabbing the game, the go-ahead touchdown in the end zone. Don't tell MR Doman and BC, but it was ruled a catch. They were not happy about the ruling, but I couldn't tell anything from that critical review. I was watching in 4K. You couldn't see. So they go ahead. Congrats to the Rough Riders, and big win for them.
Yeah, now the other big story in and around CFL circles is the news that Mike O'Shea, the Argos, have received permission to speak to Mike O'Shea about their next coaching gig. I'll be honest. I mean, I think I kind of said this last week. How much would the Argos have to pay for Mike O'Shea to get him to leave Winnipeg? It's got to be a lot because, I mean, that job on the surface is the worst in the Canadian Football League. Like, they're going to be playing 13 road games next year. Here's Dave Naylor. The Argos have requested and received permission to speak to Bombers head coach Mike O'Shea. We all know that Ryan Dinwiddie left at the first opportunity to take a much bigger position with the Ottawa Redblacks, but to move on to Ottawa. And I mean, straight up, this would be a coup for the Argos if they could get Mike O'Shea, the winningest coach in Blue Bomber history, 2 Grey Cups, 5 straight Western Division championships. But to move from a team that's sold out every game, that treats its staff and the players the way it does, the commitment from Wade Miller and ownership to be a first-class operation, to move from that to Toronto, which in my opinion right now, with the way they're treated by their ownership, is kind of a second-tier team in the league, would not make any sense. But listen, when Dave Naylor reports something like that, Remis, it's something that certainly a lot of Bomber fans perk up and go, wait a second, what's going on?
Hey, it doesn't hurt to ask. As the phrase goes, don't ask, don't get. And the Argos asked and received permission. Dave Naylor also reports they've already had at least one conversation with Mike O'Shea, senses a deal may come quickly or not at all. So Dave leaving it open-ended. They're having conversations. May turn into something like him leaving and going to the Argos, or it'll be Mike will listen to what they have to say and not be interested. So would put the Bombers in an interesting position that they haven't been in for 10 years, needing a new head coach, and would truly signal a new era of Bomber football. And the Argos, I mean, tough for them to let a guy like Ryan Dinwiddie go, who won 2 Grey Cups, but he left to Ottawa, where he's now the GM and head coach. And it was speculated by Dave in his report on TSN that would the Argos offer Mike, an elevated role beyond with head coach and additional duties. So
does he want that? Mike O'Shea's a head coach. I mean, now he's got a lot of stroke here, but I mean, I think if O'Shea wanted to be the GM or something, that could have happened here beforehand. Not that Kyle Walters was going to get run out, but I mean, to me, I don't know. And here's the other thing. It's Grey Cup week. There's the embargo of big moves. So, I mean, everyone's going to be talking about it this week, but if something was going to happen, it still wouldn't happen until next week, which I think adds some more intrigue about Mike O'Shea as the Bombers are hosting the Canadian Football League in the Grey Cup this week.
Yeah, a lot of questions about the Bombers after, the failing to get to their 6th straight Grey Cup. They've had so much success. How great would it have been to play the championship game in their home stadium? But now you have a lot of questions, and we went through all of them after their season wrapped up. And the big one is about the team's head coach, who it's gone into so many off seasons without a contract. You don't really see that, but they seem to be comfortable with this arrangement. And we'll see how this plays out. And, there's always rumblings behind the scenes when you have everyone together at an event like this. But that would be a big loss for the Bombers. You'd kind of have to restart from scratch here at the head coach position.
Justin Dunk's gonna join us in about 10, so we will get to that. But let's get to the Jets. As I said, Murat will be joining us for more on this, but we did want to play you some of Scott Arniel. Now, listen, before we get to last night's game, this is from Saturday, and it was quite noteworthy that Arnie had one-on-one meetings with all of the players on Saturday coming out of a game where he was quite disappointed in the way his team played against the San Jose Sharks. Here's what Arnie had to say about the one-on-ones on Saturday heading into Anaheim.
We straight up had one-on-ones with players. That's what it really was. I hadn't because we have, obviously a large number of new guys, we've been kind of teaching them as we go. Never really got a chance since training camp to, say, okay, now this is what I expect from you. Review with our players that have been here for, that were here last year, touching on the things that I expect from them every night. And I think that was kind of more what today was about. Each guy knows their role, what I expect, what the coaches expect from them, and just let's go out and do it as a whole.
Is that something you do periodically through the season, or is this maybe a response to just not liking the level?
No, it is something I do. I mean, I don't think I've ever done it where I've done all 20. Actually, Sandberg and Perfetti got out of it, so all 20. I think 24 guys got it today, and so and it really was. It was just, okay, this is what I've watched you do. This is when you're at your best. This is what the consistency in that style or the way you go about things. I need that. That was really more what I was trying to say to them.
All right, so there's Arniel, and as I say, that will happen throughout the year. You'll meet individually with guys, but to set up one-on-ones with every single guy on the team certainly speaks to just how disappointed he was with the way his team looked against the Sharks on Friday.
No, not really. There was bits and pieces of that. I thought there was, the start was good, had some looks, but then we gave up some odd man rush the second period. I like the fact we put 5, 6, 7 shifts in a row where it looked like everybody kind of being on the same page, but just our F3 getting caught, even our other 2 forwards getting beat up the ice by their defense. Team transitioned really well, and we just got on the wrong side of people too often.
Yeah, so there was post-game, and we'll talk about this, Reem, with Murat when he jumps on later on. We kind of heard, if you listen to the post-game on OB, I don't think they posted this anywhere, but, he was basically simply asked, what did you see from the game? And you saw a Winnipeg Jets team that didn't play very well. Like, he was not impressed with what had happened in that game against San Jose. And it speaks to the fact that he blew up the lines in the third period, in a game that was tied. Obviously, they ended up losing in regulation and not pleased after the fact, and then going through, all of it, but sounding pretty upbeat. I was expecting Remis last night after the game, and I know you guys touched on this on the post game that is up at Winnipeg Sports Talk after every game, that Arniel clearly wasn't pleased, but he certainly did have a little bit of a different tone, still trying to stay positive, but I don't think there's any way you can take from what he had to say and the way he looked on the bench that wasn't concerned with the way that his team has played, led by that top line over the course of this trip.
Yeah, well, you mentioned on Friday, he's shuffling the top line, putting one on each, on each line, the top 3. And yesterday, you look at 5-on-5, and it's the top line that's on for 2 goals against. And, just that third goal was just, some lax play, not being able to get the puck out. And Anaheim just took it to them. They were faster. And areas like special teams where the Jets have been so good on the power play and penalty kill haven't been that. And you just watched Anaheim just whip the puck around to find Leo Carlsson for the 4th goal. Maybe like Comrie could have stopped that, but it was Leo Carlsson, who's top 5 in the NHL in points right now, getting a point blank shot, and he can rip it, and the puck was just flying off his stick and Cutter Gauthier's stick as well, who's among the NHL leaders in goals. And the Jets, they just got, can I say blown out? It was 4-1. Is that a blowout? Or if they had got the 5th goal that was disallowed off an offside review, does that make it a blowout? Either way, the deserve to win meter not in the Jets' favor yesterday.
No, listen, this wasn't close, and the Anaheim Ducks were the better team, and that was the team that played the night before in Vegas, going to overtime. But they certainly had the young legs. The Jets did seem like a bit of a step behind for most of the game. Here's Arnie on that good stretch that they had before giving up that 3rd goal that really ended up being a killer.
The idea is to build. It's to build, shift to shift, period to period, and we just haven't done enough of that this year. And in the last stretch here, these 3 games out in a row, there hasn't been enough consistency doing that. And that's just something that we've talked about. And it's a mindset. It's outworking the opposition. It's making the right decisions. Then the last part of it is execution. Our execution tonight at times wasn't what we needed it to be.
Execution all around for the Jets, but especially I thought the top line. And listen, the power play's not cooking right now, and as you mentioned, I mean, a couple goals against, and Mark Scheifele in particular seemed to be sort of off this weekend. But here's what Arnie had to say about looking to the top line that's been so good for them this season, and now in a bit of a funk, how they can get going.
I think our whole group be more consistent, shift to shift, game to game. I think period to period. I think that there's ebbs and flow in a game, and you're going to get stuck in your end. You got to make the right decisions, defend the right way. I mean, the other side of it is, that when if that line isn't going, we need other lines to step up and score some goals as well. So, they took carried a lot of the load early on, and now they have to recognize too. And if it's going the other way, they got to be good without the puck. Like I ask all our lines that you have to defend first, and at times our whole group we kind of get away from that, and ends up spending way too much time in our end of the rink.
We did see the return of Cole Perfetti last night, which was very nice to see, although obviously it didn't end up helping the Jets win a game. He had a glorious chance on a perfect wide-open net setup from Jonathan Toews that didn't go in, that probably does more often than not. But he was playing with Toews and Nemestikov. It was the first time to see that line. Here's what the coach thought of that unit.
Yeah, well, if that's there, that's a long time off, and I'm sure if you talk to him, I'm sure he said there's lots of rust, and the only way he's going to get better is to get out and play, and try to play him a lot more in the third there. And but I like that unit. I thought there were some things that they did well, but it's going to be sort of more of a chemistry thing. They have to start right now, in November to try to find it, and we'll play and put them back together again, and hopefully they can continue to improve.
All right, there's Scott Arniel. Now, speaking of Perfetti, finally back on the ice, first chance to play with Jonathan Toews in NHL action this year. Here's what Perfetti had to say about the game and his return.
Obviously they were coming on a back-to-back. We wanted to get on them early, and we just didn't do it. We just didn't execute properly. We're just not playing our style the way we can. And it's I've only been here for one game now, but it's. I just know that as a group we have so much in here to give, and right now we just can't. We're just not finding it, and it's going to come. We're just working through it, but obviously that was a team that we wanted to. They traveled last night back to back. We wanted to get on them early, and we didn't. We were trailing from early on, and they're obviously a young, fast, skilled team, and they showed that tonight, and we couldn't match their transition tonight.
Yeah, are they almost too young for a back-to-back to sweat them because their transition game was so effective tonight?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're just playing that style. I think a lot of them, they're playing with a lot of confidence. A lot of young guys over there that are, off to a hot start, and confidence is key in this league. So, when you have the talent like that and the speed, and then you mix it with the confidence, good things are going to happen. We knew that's how they wanted to play. That's how they were going to play, and we just couldn't match it early. And when you're trailing, it's a hard team to play against when they're coming at you shift after shift, odd man rushes, and you're kind of giving that up. It just feels it's not our style. It's not how we want to play. So just frustrating.
All right, there's Cole Perfetti on the game, and here's one more clip from Perfetti. We're going to have Justin Dunk join us in just a few minutes. But here's just on his return, the comeback, and obviously on the new line that he's on.
We had some looks. We had some shifts that were great and had some shifts that weren't. It was to be a little bit of expected. I mean, obviously we don't. We want to, spend a little bit more time in their zone. And I thought, the intent was right all night. It just a little bit of execution, and then, sometimes it was just a little bit off. I mean, Taser gave me a great play in the slot in the back door there, and just an almost maybe that most nights those go in, and it just wasn't it tonight. But there's stuff to build on from that, and I think we're going to build some chemistry, and I'm going to be better. We're all going to be better, and go from there.
How did you feel individually in terms of just rust and reads and all the things that might happen?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there were some shifts that I felt really, really good and felt on it and happy with them. And then there was a few where I just felt like you're just a half second behind. And in this league, if you're a half second behind, that's all it takes to get to be out of place or whatnot. But I mean, I think that's going to get better every game, every shift, and I thought I felt it get better throughout the game, and the reads started to come a little more naturally. Obviously, the cardio and the game conditioning is going to come more and more. I'm taking 5 weeks off of, no matter how much you skate up and down the ice in practice, until you get into a game, pushing, shoving, it's a whole different animal. So that's going to get better, and then the mental side of it's going to get a lot better. So. Obviously would have liked to have, contributed a little more, pitched in, but at the same time, just using this as a building block game.
Hey, folks, looking for something fun to do on the weekend? Listen, when you're thinking fun for both the family, groups of people of all ages, Uptown Alley is the spot. If you haven't checked out their amazing new facility at 1301 St. Matthews, what are you waiting for? An absolutely amazing facility with 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, laser tag, an amazing arcade, games with great prizes, not to mention incredible food and all sorts of beverages, whatever you'd like to accompany with you on the lanes or while you're having fun. They've got a great daily deal right now. After 9 p.m., it's the Bowl and Play special, where you get 90 minutes of bowling and a $10 arcade card for $20.49 for 5-pin, $22.49 for 10-pin. And of course, it's an unbelievable spot for birthday parties for both kids, teens, or adults. An amazing group and corporate events with 3 easy steps to an amazing event. Pick your activities, your meal, your add-ons. And after that, the events team will take care of everything, and you'll have an amazing night. Tonight and anytime, Uptown Alley waiting for you. Get together with the gang and have a blast at Uptown Alley. UptownAlley.ca for more information on group events. And, of course, open 7 days a week. Our friends at Rolly's Transfer are ready to help you and your family on your next move. It's a stressful time. If you need a mover, why don't you do what Manitobans have been doing for over 60 years. That's leaning on the most trusted name in the game, Rolly's Transfer. Head on over to their website at rollys.com, hit on request an estimate, and put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. Let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to be moved, and the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they are famous for, now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, lean on our friends at Rolly's. Find out more, request an estimate today at rollys.com. I see Dr. Terry's in the chat today. Our friends at St. Vital Dental Center, ready for a little marbles fun and a big weekend coming up. Listen, if you need your smile worked out, or if it's been a minute since you've seen a dentist, why don't you head on over to St. Vital Dental Center? They've been serving generations of Manitobans and have a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's Road with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building. A full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. Dr. Terry and his staff can do it all with a smile on their face to help the smile on yours. StVitalDental.ca for more information. Make an appointment and make it your long-term home for you and your family with a great group of people taking care of your smile. And hey, the weekend is here, gang. I know many of you are going to be popping by your local Manitoba liquor marts ahead of Grey Cup week next week. Make sure to check out the Canadian Club display for 2 things. Number 1, limited quantities remain of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers Special Edition Bomber Label bottle of Canadian Club, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and Canada's iconic Canadian whiskey. And in addition, with the holidays coming up right now, for a limited time, we've got the cranberry ginger ale with Canadian Club. We know how popular the CC and ginger's been over the last couple of years. Well, just in time for the holidays, it's CC cranberry and ginger ale in 4-packs and in 473 milliliter cans. You can get those at Manitoba Liquor Marts, or keep your eyes out for it at your local vendor. Canadian Club, the official spirit of the Bombers, the Grey Cup festivities, and the holidays. All right, we're going to get back to the Jets in a bit. Murat's going to join us down from Southern California post that loss to the Ducks last night. And we'll look ahead to the rest of the trip and get his thoughts from the weekend. But it is Grey Cup week. Montreal and Saskatchewan battling for the 112th Grey Cup at Princess Auto Stadium on the weekend. Let's bring in our pal Justin Dunk from 3 Down Nation to set it up. Dunk, what's going on? How are you?
Just kicking it at John Hodge's condo.
Yeah,
and
it looks
people
familiar.
Recognize the background and wonder, what's this skinny dude doing in here?
Yeah, no, where's the beard, John? little too clean
I have
shaven
way more
today.
hair on the top of my head. I'll just say that.
Hey, listen, I mean, I want to get to the Grey Cup and the crazy games on the weekend, but we may as well just quickly touch on the big story that I think a lot of Winnipeg and Bomber fans are sort of waking up to, and that's Dave Naylor's report that the Argos have requested and were granted permission to speak to Mike O'Shea about their head coaching job. John, is this just them doing due diligence? Is this just Mike O'Shea going, well, I may as well take the call, probably helps me in my negotiation, or is this a possibility?
John is the condo owner that I'm in. I'm Justin, so I'll just keep going. But anyway.
Did I just call you John? Sorry.
All good,
call
all
you
good.
Dunk. It's a lot easier.
I know the background makes you think it's Hodge. That's totally understandable. But as for Mike O'Shea, you know, when you think about this, Huss, on a number of levels, it is, I will say, somewhat surprising that the Bombers granted O'Shea permission to talk to the Argos early. From what I've been told, O'Shea's contract doesn't officially expire until December 31st. And you well know that Wade Miller has been, you know, what is the proper phrasing? Difficult comes to mind for me in terms of allowing people to interview with other teams. You know, I think of Teddy Gavaya over the years, or Danny McManus and some of that stuff. I'm not saying they've never been granted, but a lot of the time in those instances, it didn't seem like it was always in the best interest of the person. It was the best interest of the team. So perhaps this tells us that the Blue Bombers are at least thinking about the possibility of being with Mike O'Shea, because if you're going to grant the Toronto Argonauts the opportunity to talk to and interview Mike O'Shea, now, let's not get it twisted. Mike O'Shea knows Mike Pinball Clemens very well. They're never going to admit it, but you would imagine at some point them being so tight as teammates, they won multiple Grey Cups together with the Toronto Argonauts, have at least kicked around this possibility. So if you're Winnipeg and you let O'Shea talk to Toronto, there's at least a massive leverage play there for O'Shea if he's going to come back to Winnipeg and say, okay, well, Toronto's offering me this much money. You either got to match it or I'm gone.
I'm thinking it would take a massive bag to get O'Shea to leave. Like, I mean, Justin, you cover this league from coast to coast. I mean, to me right now, I mean, I don't know if there's any other way to say it. It kind of feels like the Argos are like a second-tier team right now. I mean, Dinwiddie, who's had great success there, leaves for Ottawa and doesn't even come back and say, hey, here's an opportunity to match this, or this is what I would need to stay. And they're going to be playing 13 games on the road or something like that next year. I mean, this does not seem like, put it this way, you go from a team where you've had so much success, you're the winningest coach of all time, you sell out every game, to Toronto. I mean, like, what could possibly convince Mike O'Shea that is where he should go other than a huge bag?
That and the fact that Mike O'Shea doesn't necessarily like talking to all the media in Winnipeg. There's not much media that covers the Toronto Argonauts.
Yeah, maybe that's the bonus.
It can be part of it at least. And the Argos are going to play, as you said, 12 road games in 2026. But on a lot of levels, it does make sense for Mike O'Shea. For example, the Argos hold their training camp at his alma mater, the University of Guelph. That's just one small piece. But the fact that I believe it is his partner, his wife, is from Milton. O'Shea has lots of friends still in the area. There's no doubt that he's built up, friends groups and a community out in Winnipeg. He spoke to that as the Bombers were cleaning out their lockers. But there's an opportunity to go to Toronto and perhaps, as you said, pick the Argos back up after losing Ryan Dinwiddie and continue to, try to keep them relevant. Because I think Ryan Dinwiddie did a great job. 2 Grey Cups in 5 years. That team, except for 2025, was very competitive in the East Division, tied the CFL regular season record for wins in a year with 16 in 2023. Yes, there was no Grey Cup there, but still a great mark. He developed Chad Kelly into an MOP quarterback. Everybody just thinks that, Chad Kelly's this great QB that appeared. Well, Ryan Dinwiddie was the guy that got him to that level, the guy that went from that key run in the Grey Cup in 2022 to help the Argos win it to being a franchise quarterback as a legitimate game in and game out QB. I don't think we can just forget those things and think that they're just going to happen out of nowhere. And then he put Nick Arbuckle into the conversation about being an MOP in 2025. So I think that's why the Argos are looking for the top candidate on their list with Dinwiddie out the door. And there would be no better person to bring into Toronto to keep, let's say, the winning going. It would be a different culture, I think, under Mike O'Shea. But the other part of this too, Hustler, is that the Argonauts have not had a great PR stretch here, okay? All the stuff that went on with Chad Kelly, you go back to some of the altercations, let's say, that happened with their players and John Murphy after a playoff game at BMO Field. And then you look at, you mentioned it, the report that Dinwiddie didn't go back to Toronto. Why would Ryan Dinwiddie go back to Toronto and say, hey, do you want to match this offer? Toronto could have been proactive and said, we want you to be our general manager and head coach, and Michael Pinball Clemens is going to be the vice president of football operations. We'll give you all you want, and we'll keep you. That didn't happen. I think it was actually respectful that Ryan Dinwiddie didn't shop Ottawa's offer. Now, I'm not saying that Mike O'Shea would be disrespectful if he went back to Winnipeg. It's a completely different situation, but there's lots going on behind the scenes there in Toronto.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how this goes. I mean, to be honest, on the surface, I thought this was going to be a really tough sell to head coaching candidates that, to go into this situation, knowing how you're judged in professional football with what this team's facing next year. I mean, it would be a huge coup if they could get O'Shea to agree to do that. And that would be a sea change here in Winnipeg that's had this culture and this consistency year after year after year under O'Shea. I can't see it happening, but I mean, we've got to be talking about it. Interesting that Naylor did say that, I believe his quote was, a deal could come quickly or not at all. Of course, there's like the embargo on big news right now with the Canadian Football League. So, I mean, the idea is that this would not be announced this week. And now all of a sudden it's in Winnipeg. You've got this going out there. I mean, it's hard not to imagine this isn't going to be a story throughout Grey Cup week.
Definitely. I mean, he is the winningest coach in the CFL right now, so it certainly will be. And, I think it's hard to say, quickly or not at all. Like, don't most deals, when both sides are motivated, come together quickly or they don't happen? So what's the definition of quickly? You know what I mean? I think it's either there's a deal with the Toronto Argonauts and Mike O'Shea feels like there's alignment with him going over there, or they're not. And there are some people that have said that they can't fathom Mike O'Shea going to Toronto and working alongside John Murphy. So that is a piece that plays into this as well. But I think the bond with Michael Pinball Clemens could potentially be stronger. And on the other side of it, it might simply just be a leverage play from Mike O'Shea, who hasn't necessarily maximized his value in the past with Winnipeg.
Dunk, let's get to the Grey Cup. And well, first of all, the games on the weekend. I mean, I know you, of course, were focusing in on the Riders for the West Final. But we got some pretty great, as great. The fact that the East Final, which was a walk-off, was the second most exciting game of the week, I think speaks to just how awesome the weekend was. Just before we kind of dive in on that crazy Rider game, thoughts on Davis Alexander and the Alouettes getting the job done and booking their ticket to the Peg?
Gritty, and that guy's just willing to do whatever it takes. The passing game wasn't clicking as well as it was the week before when he threw for a single game career high 384 yards, but he got it done, right? Some key scrambles at the end of the game despite that left hamstring bothering him. That's of course going to be a storyline throughout the entire Grey Cup week, but it'd be hard to see Davis Alexander not playing in the CFL title game. So full credit to the Alouettes for going into Hamilton, sold out crowd, lots of offensive weapons there. Bo Levi Mitchell, Kenny Lawler, Keandre Smith, Tim White, Shamar Bridges, Greg Bell, and the rest, and slowing them down. I think the underrated part and rightfully so, Davis Alexander has drawn a lot of attention, is the Alouettes defense led by defensive coordinator Noel Thorpe. He sends a lot of pressure. He'll hit quarterbacks in the mouth time and time again and keep coming at you. And that's what Trevor Harris and the Saskatchewan Roughriders are going to have to deal with in the Grey Cup. It has been difficult, especially when Davis Alexander has been on the field. And I know it seems weird, but to score points against that defense, because the offense then possesses the ball, that allows Noel Thorpe to get more exotic with his blitz packages. So it's going to be a tough test for Saskatchewan.
Let's talk about the Riders beating BC. I mean, the last 3 minutes of that game was it just bananas. I mean, first of all, what were you thinking in real time when Corey May sent out Brett Lowther down 7 with less than 3 minutes left to kick a field goal to go from 7 down to 4 down?
I thought it was risky because there was a chance that Saskatchewan was never going to get the football back. And then my next thought, Hustler, being on the post-game show for a couple of years now, was that is going to be the only topic that people called in about. And I was right, because it was, but it was Rider Nation on both sides in that argument, whether it was the right call or not. Obviously, it worked out. Corey Mace gets paid much more money to be a head coach of the Saskatchewan Roughriders than we do to analyze what he does, but there was a lot of risk with that decision.
Was there ever? And then they ended up punting again before getting the ball back to finally go in. I mean, it's just a quintessential CFL game. This one had to be an absolutely bitter pill for the BC Lions to swallow, because as much as we can talk about the heroics that Trevor Harris pulled off at the in the final seconds of the football game, they were incredibly fortunate to even have that opportunity. And when you think about what Nathan Rourke has done, they basically just needed to get a first down on 2 opportunities and weren't able to get it done.
Totally agree with you there. The BC Lions are going to be thinking about that for a while. 2 opportunities, 2 2-and-outs inside the final 3 minutes. And I go to that 2nd and 3 quarterback draw that was called. Buck Pierce called it an ISO draw because Xander Horvath was the lead blocker on the play. The biggest defensive play in the Canadian Football League so far this year, we'll see if there's a bigger one in the Grey Cup, was when A.J. Allen shed Horvath smoothly and then stopped up Nathan Rourke from picking up that 2nd and 3. If Rourke picks that up, the game's probably over, because that was after the punt that you referenced when May selected to kick the ball away on 3rd and 10. If Allen doesn't make that play, Corey Mace is answering a whole bunch of questions, and the BC Lions are playing in the Grey Cup with Nathan Rourke against Davis Alexander.
Yeah, it was, it all worked out perfectly for Saskatchewan, but as I say, the chances of all of that happening with Nathan Rourke on the other side, to me, was so slim that it made it insane to do it, and yet here we are. The Riders are going to the Grey Cup. Just thoughts on Trevor Harris's performance in that final drive, knowing what was at stake.
Huge. You look at that final drive, 7 plays, 76 yards, just over a minute left on the clock. In all 7 plays, Hustler, were passes. Trevor Harris goes 6 for 7 for 76 yards on the drive. The key throw, in my opinion, was that pass to Dante Myers down the seam with a whole bunch of BC Lions defenders around him kind of looking at each other like, who was supposed to cover this guy? Gets them down inside the 5-yard line, and then Tommy Neal beats Gary Peters on a slant route for the game-winning touchdown. And yes, I know Omar Doman doesn't want to hear it. That was a catch. It was Neal's elbow that was down on these images that are circulating the interwebs.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they had some good camera work there. I mean, there wasn't anything that I thought that really suggested that it wasn't a catch. And the funniest thing, Dunk, and I'm sure you had a chuckle as well, when you looked at, probably the best camera angle was obscured by the goalpost of all things.
Stuart Johnston throwing up his hands wherever he was watching it.
Oh, no doubt about it. there were some real strong performances from both teams. And I think it speaks to, just how wide open this Final Four was, that really you look at the last 2 minutes of both football games where it was decided. And it was the Saskatchewan defense stepping up with those two massive stops to get the ball back and allow themselves an opportunity to do it. And Hamilton missing that same opportunity. I mean, the Rambo catch and turning that into a first down, that to me was the game in the East Final. I mean, if he doesn't make that play, Bo Levi Mitchell is in the Trevor Harris situation, albeit in a tie game. Just needed to get into field goal range to win it and head to the Grey Cup.
That Rambo play was, I totally agree with you, the key to that win for the Alouettes. And it was almost as if Davis Alexander put that football out there to him out of desperation. And then Rambo, breaking tackles in the open field, picks up the first down. That was absolutely massive, and I think underrated in that Alouettes win.
This game, what did you expect the line to be? Like before you knew what it was? Like Montreal, Saskatchewan, if you were setting the line, what would it have been?
I had thought that because Davis Alexander has a perfect 13-0 record, that the Alouettes would have been short favorites, not the other way around.
Yeah, I basically thought it was going to be a pick'em. I mean, you could make a good argument for both teams. I did not see it being 2.5, 3 for Saskatchewan. And, I was talking about with Dustin Nielsen earlier. I mean, I guess this is just concern about Alexander's health and status for this game. I mean, like a fully healthy Alouette team versus a healthy Rider team on a neutral field. To me, neither team would be like a 2-3 point favorite.
That could be part of it. And then, I thought the other part, Huss, are the odds makers sort of playing to the public here because they know there's so many fans in Rider Nation, right? Like playing to the public and showing them some respect because they know there's going to be some money coming in on the Riders, right? The Riders are excited, or the Rider Nation is excited because the Riders haven't been to the Grey Cup since 2013.
I'm fascinated at every aspect of this football game. I mean, to me, I do think that we've got the two best teams in the CFL going at it. Although I'm sure BC Lions are probably barfing in their mouth hearing me say that because they were so close to winning, and I think we all agree they have the best player in this league. But it is a really juicy matchup. I mean, you've got the Rider fans that are going to be coming to Winnipeg in droves that I think are going to really be adding a lot to the spirit of what the Grey Cup is about. There's many analogies, I would say, to the 22 Grey Cup of Winnipeg-Toronto in Regina, in that the Bomber fans went there, probably made the party a lot better, and then when all the Rider fans who had tickets showed up for the game, they were pulling for the team from the East. I kind of think that might be the case with a lot of Bomber fans. They'll have a lot of fun with the Rider fans throughout the week, and then might be on the other side when kickoff goes on Sunday afternoon.
I would agree with that. And then I would take it one step farther and say that I think this is the ideal matchup for the Canadian Football League to have some big television ratings because Montreal brings in the Francophone market. And we know that usually the Riders are a big draw, although, as John Hodge will point out to me, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers had taken over that crown at least for the last season or two from the Riders. But there's no doubt with the Riders in the game for the first time in a long time that a lot of Rider Nation will be tuning in. So the television number should be a great one for the CFL. Hey,
tell us about the post game in Regina. I mean, was Corey Mace kind of saying, I told you so, never in doubt sort of thing? I mean, there were pretty wild decisions that he made, and I'm sure there were still questions about it even in the win.
Corey Mace essentially said, have faith. And then he also added that he felt like if it was a year ago, he would have just said, F it, let's just go for it and try to tie it up right there. And then Trevor Harris had a pretty funny quote, and I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he said something like, Rider Nation was actually booing the decision in the stadium. And I think Harris said something to the effect of Rider Nation going, oh, no, Corey Mace, what are you doing? And then it works out, and it's like, Corey Mace is the man. Yeah. And that was pretty much the post game. The majority of people agreed with what Mace did in terms of the people who called into 620 CKRM on the post-game show. But there were some other people providing some legitimate balance and saying, okay, it did all go right pretty much perfectly and worked out. But that doesn't necessarily mean that a lot of people think that it was the right call.
No, I think that they were incredibly fortunate. I think they won despite a couple of decisions that were a little bit head-scratching. But again, Corey Mace can just go scoreboard. He was right, and he's going to have a busy week. I have to ask one other thing, and this is sort of more of a humorous thing. Kian Schaefer-Baker gets his touchdown. His celebration, he tried to do the bounce up off your shoulders onto your feet. You can't try that celebration if you're not 100% that you're going to land that thing. I mean, that was in fact, that was the moment where I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is a serious team. I don't know if they can win. Did he discuss that after the game, or was it just all celebration? We're going to the Grey Cup.
He didn't talk about it after the game, but it was risky though, considering how cold it was and somewhat slippery down on the field.
Oh, man. Hey, listen, we'll obviously have a lot of time this week to chop up the matchup and all the other stories that the teams get here to Winnipeg. The Grey Cup's already here. The parties are sold out. It is go time. Couple things from the chat that I wanted to quickly ask you before we go. Waiters is asking, what are you hearing about the latest on Taylor Elgersma? Big questions about the future of the quarterback position here in Winnipeg. Zach Calero says 1 more year, but to me, it seems it's incumbent on the Bombers to have a succession plan, assuming that this is likely Zach's last year. And Elgersma is the guy that everyone's talking about after he was picked in the draft last year. What's the latest?
Taylor Elgersma is patiently waiting for an NFL opportunity. And the thinking with him and his camp was, in terms of the end of the CFL season, that he wasn't going to get on the field in Winnipeg anyways. And if he came up here, then that would essentially tell NFL teams that, okay, he's focused on the CFL now. So there is believed to be a chance, at least by, him and his agents, that he could get a look from an NFL team or teams near the end of the season, and then perhaps impress that way and stay on through organized training activities, off-season workouts, that kind of thing, and perhaps get to another NFL training camp. Now, if he doesn't get that opportunity, then I could see him possibly being in Canadian Football League training camp, and that would obviously be, well, you would think it would be with Winnipeg. You never know if trades can happen. But you're right about a succession plan in Winnipeg from Zach Collaros. It would be ideal if it could be Taylor Elgersma learning from Collaros for a year or two perhaps before he possibly steps into the starting role, let's say, if that actually does come to fruition in Winnipeg. But for right now, Taylor Elgersma patiently waiting for another NFL opportunity.
All right. And last one, I meant to hit you this when we were talking about Dinwiddie moving over to Ottawa. If you had to lay a nickel right now, what quarterback takes the first snap for the Ottawa Redblacks in 2026?
If I had to lay a nickel on which quarterback Ryan Dinwiddie would pick to take the first snap for the Ottawa Redblacks, if you could have his choice of anyone, it would be Chad Kelly. Well, perhaps Nathan Rourke, but that's not going to happen. So let's say Chad Kelly. Though I do think, and I have heard throughout that process, that Ryan Dinwiddie had liked Drew Brown from afar and felt that he could be a guy who might have the potential to win with. So I think that unless there are some, let's say, trades that go on or some transactions.
Kelly signed for next year already with the Argos?
Yes, he is under contract. And the tricky part there is that he'll likely have a guarantee in there somewhere, off-season roster bonus. He didn't play all season, so the Argonauts can't cut him. They got to pay him that bonus. So if Drew Brown can get healthy, I think there is a possibility that he is a starting quarterback in Ottawa, but Dinwiddie told me exclusively that he's going to evaluate all the options. So I think that kind of tells you that it's like, okay, we think we got a pretty good one in-house, but we're still going to look to see if he is legitimate and possibly find better.
Dunk, great stuff. Looking forward to seeing you this week. It should be a lot of fun. Big week for 3 Down Nation. What do you, Haji, and the gang have cooking as we get ready for Sunday?
You know it, buddy. Always good to catch up, man. I wish there was a Winnipeg Jets game this week, but we don't make the NHL schedule. I thought you might have a say in that, Hustler.
Yeah, listen, I would have loved to have, head down to the rink for a game while everyone was here. A lot of late night games, 9 p.m. starts, but that's a good thing. You can talk a little football, Grey Cup, get into the bar, watch the game, and I'm sure we'll make that happen at some point. Hey, looking forward to seeing you the next couple of days, pal. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, there's Justin Dunk. 3downnation.com is where you want to go. Dunk's work, John Hodge, wall-to-wall coverage of the 112th Grey Cup from Dunk and the guys. All right, we're going to hook up with Murat Atesh in California in just a minute. First up, though, a big thanks to WST sponsors. Of course, Princess Auto Stadium, as we mentioned, the home of the Bombers and the home of the Grey Cup. Princess Auto, as we welcome everyone to Winnipeg, Princess Auto, synonymous with Winnipeg, founded and headquartered right here in the Peg, and now coast to coast, but with 3 Manitoba locations to serve you, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new waiting for you at Princess Auto right now. Pop by and see them in store today, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. You know, I had a little bit of the white stuff last night, and while that might freak out a lot of people, you know who it's not freaking out? Terminator and our friends out in Gimli at Chud's Power Sports, Manitoba's Power Sports Superstore. They are ready to go right now to get going with the snow and with snowmobile season. And ahead of the season, they've got amazing deals on right now on Polaris and Arctic Cat sleds before the snow creeps in. But of course, they've got so much more than snowmobiles there. ATVs, side-by-sides, personal transportation. We've got the Argo, the Suzuki and Roxor, Evolution golf carts, boats and outboards, RVs and fish houses for the upcoming ice fishing season, and so much more in gear and accessories, and the best selection of parts in the province. If you got to fix your sled or something coming up for the season, the amazing staff at Chud's with more than 140 years experience will be happy to take care of you, as they've been doing for generations here in Manitoba, over 80 years in the business. Up in Gimli, the leaders when it comes to power sports, Chud's Power Sports, corner of Highway 8 and 231 in Gimli, online at chudspowersports.com. We'll get to the NFL Power Poll a little later on when Hacksaw joins us on the show. All our Power Polls brought to you by our friends at Chud's Power Sports. And hey, before we bring in Brandon Rowicki, speaking of that winter, make sure your car is ready to go. More importantly, your battery, because if the battery don't go, the car don't go. Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery are your local option for the best in price and service for batteries for literally everything. And of course, as Donnie always says, don't overpay at the big box stores. Beat the freeze before it beats you. Free battery testing right now. Sale on booster cables and booster packs. And the best prices in town, period, on batteries, beating the pants off those big box stores. So get on down to Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive, get your battery tested if you need it. And if you do need a new battery, make sure you're shopping local, supporting local, and saving money at the same time with Manitoba Battery, 2 Winnipeg locations. And of course, you can shop online as well at manitobabattery.com. All right, let's welcome in Murat Atesh of The Athletic, who was at the game last night down in Southern California. Murat, thanks so much for doing this. How are you?
Doing well, Huss. Thanks for having me.
Not a great weekend for the visitors. I got to tell you, you could see how frustrated Scott O'Neill was on Friday night after the Sharks game. And, you know, listening to your conversation with him yesterday, it seemed like there was less anger, but more maybe legitimate concern as to the way that his team looked. I mean, just thoughts on these 2 losses against 2 really exciting young teams in the NHL.
Yeah, when Dad turns from angry to disappointed, it's usually a bad sign, right? Like on Friday, I heard him telling CJOB that, hey, that was not a great performance. That was a bad performance by the Winnipeg Jets. And then on Saturday in Anaheim, as I wrote at The Athletic, there was a whole series of one-on-one meetings between coach and his players. It's normal for him to check in. Don't get me wrong. It's normal for him to do that sort of thing. But to chain a bunch of 1v1s together on that Saturday with the focus on getting the Jets standards back, that was a little bit extra. He was frustrated with how that San Jose game had went. And then to go into Anaheim talking about how you need to be better in transition, better at battles, better at the defensive details, and get beaten in all 3 of those ways, 7 minutes and change into the game on the first Seneca goal. It was not a good weekend for the Winnipeg Jets, and they're falling short right now of the standards that they try to hold for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it wasn't even close. And I kind of understand why that, the coach was the way he was afterwards. And it was interesting to hear that, kind of went out of the normal routine to really sort of try to get his troops set for last night. And then you saw first period that, frankly, was even more disjointed from their normal structure. I mean, like, what was it, 4 or 5 like odd man rushes in that first period? I mean, that did not look like the Winnipeg Jets. And, at that point, for those of us watching the game on TV, it looked like it was more of the steaming Arnie early on in the game. But by the end, it was a little bit of a different tack by the coach.
Yeah, I mean, the anger, I mean, I imagine asking for a very specific thing. And it's not that the Jets lost necessarily. It's that when they were getting beaten in transition, including when they had the power play, they were giving up odd man rushes. But Arnie was saying, like, we didn't just lose F3, we had our other forwards not getting back either. Like, the amount of breakdown that led to the transition and the amount of track back were just not right for the Winnipeg Jets. So those are fundamentals that, whether you're on the road, whether you had an awkward travel day, whatever's going on, those are standards the Winnipeg Jets should be able to meet. And I guess 3 periods in, no real chance of a comeback, no real life shown, especially after that second period dagger, the second Seneca goal. He just had to cross his arms and wait it out and hope they can get things ready in time for Vancouver.
Let's back up to the San Jose game first on Friday night, because, one thing we haven't seen almost ever is him dropping a complete nuke to his lines. I mean, Paul Maurice would have appreciated the blender that was pulled out in San Jose, to the point where the entire top line was put on 3 different lines, Murat. Just thoughts on, what happened in San Jose and the fact that this was still a very close and tight game, and he kind of went for the nuclear option with the lines.
Yeah, it's a sign that Scott Arniel cares about process more than results, because the Jets were in that game. Connor Hellebuck was playing phenomenally. So was the opposing goaltender. But the Jets had a chance in that game based on the scoreboard because their goaltender was phenomenal. And yet, he was still so unhappy by what I'm going to call disinterested play by some members of the top line, just a drop-off in intensity from some of the excellence earlier on where they were scoring almost at will. And he did the thing that they don't normally do. Sometimes you'll see Gabriel Velarde drop off at portions, but you got the Connor Scheifele duo keeping together. Well, he separated, just like you said, all 3 of those guys onto different lines. And, interpreting, I took it as a sign he was unhappy with that line's compete level. And then to see it repeat itself on Sunday with, compete, I didn't think that Scheifele was at his best over these last few games in particular. That's a concerning trend.
I would echo it. I thought Mark was way off on the weekend, and, disappointing for him personally as well. I mean, we're spending a lot of time talking about as Mark Scheifele played his way onto the Olympic team. And then you go head-to-head against Macklin Celebrini, who certainly is right in the mix. And I'd put money on right now, not only he's on the team, he's probably in that top 12 in the opening game. But you've got a young player like that kind of take over the game, be such a difference maker. And Mark just being off. I will say this, if there were people that were watching these games from a Team Canada perspective, that did not help his cause as great as he'd been early on this season.
Yeah, like, I want to be clear-eyed about the fact he's not been good of late, and also keep that in the context of he's a phenomenal player. He's done some great things this year. He's leading the offensive charge, and Winnipeg needs some other players to generate offense. But when you see him get beat along the boards in the build-up to the first goal, and then he's 10 foot behind as in the slot, just in the wrong spot as that puck goes in, when you see what the Anaheim Ducks broadcast referred to as a soft play on that turnover that leads to the Anaheim Ducks' 3rd goal in the second period. And when you think of the context in the game, Lowry's line had a great shift. The 4th line had a great shift. They earned an offensive zone draw. Okay, TV timeout. The momentum's gone for a minute, but now you get to throw the big dogs out. It's Scheifele, it's Morrissey and DeMello. That line and pairing for the offensive zone draw. 41 seconds later, it's in the back of their net, and they've made multiple giveaways and got chased around their own zone. That's not standard bearing performance from your best forward, especially on the giveaway for that. So he's got to find himself. He's got to get his foot back on the accelerator like it's been. There have been times he's played hard, committed games, and certainly he scored a ton. We need Winnipeg to get back to that, and maybe it'll help alleviate some of the pressure on those guys if somebody else scores a goal sometimes too.
Well, exactly. I mean, listen, 2 goals in 3 games just simply is not going to get it done. And I do wonder. Yeah, I mean, listen, Murat, we spoke at the end of last week about your piece about how this month of November is so important for putting themselves in a position. I mean, the Jets are now, after this disappointing weekend in San Jose and Anaheim, now in the process of just trying to salvage a road trip that looked pretty juicy when the team left at 9-3 with 6 games, all against teams that were either at, in, and around the playoff line or at least expected to be below there.
Yeah, and guys coming back, right? You got Adam Lowry back, and let's be patient. You get Cole Perfetti back. Probably if he's not rusty, he buries that Taves feed late in the first. There's reasons to think the Jets should be better than they are. I was writing about how if you get this moment right, if you get November right, you get to start thinking about, okay, let's be the Florida Panthers. Let's measure things out, make sure everybody's well rested. We don't care if we win the President's Trophy. Let's get ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs like they did. And of course, getting Matthew Tkachuk back helped that team quite a bit. But we were talking about load management and making sure Lowry and Taves and everybody who has been working through some stuff were at their best. Well, you can't put your feet up in like January if you've got your feet up now and you're getting beaten by these faster, younger, more desperate teams. And Winnipeg's sort of playing itself out of that opportunity right now. They were 14-1-0 a year ago, 9-6-0 right now, with some trouble spots, with process that Arniel doesn't like. There's a lot of things that have to happen to right this ship.
Let's just get back to the off day in between the 2 games. I mean, what do we know about the one-on-one meetings? Did Arnie speak to the process, the reason why for it, and what he was trying to get out of it?
Yeah, I had heard prior to the on-ice portion of Saturday's practice that Arniel had been unhappy and that some of those meetings in groups were a little, I don't want to say tense, but were critical. They were like very clearly addressing the fact that Winnipeg wasn't playing the way that they needed to play. I was told he was upset, and he deserved to be upset about that. And then speaking to him, because let's paint a picture. We're in the basement or like the tunnel level of Honda Center on Saturday. It's, I'm going to say, like 30 degrees down there. It's hot, so maybe that contributes to the low energy as well. But the media before the interviews were also sort of kept and made to wait for, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, some amount of time extra. And the reason for that is because of these meetings. So to ask Scott Arniel about that, which I did, what he told me was that it was normal for him to check in and have meetings, but it wasn't normal for him to do 24 in a single day. And he attributed it to the fact that, okay, some of these guys are new. Some of the guys that have been here have been hurt. There are other things to get to. But I think at the heart of it was the fact that Winnipeg standards were not met. And let me tell you, again, there are reasons why people could be subdued, but that whole lot of Jets walking around in that tunnel area afterwards, after all of those meetings, that was a subdued group. I interpreted it as if Arniel had given them quite a lot to think about. And I had also interpreted it as though they had taken things very seriously and we're going to be ready to make that pushback on Sunday, but it certainly didn't happen.
Considering all of that heading into last night's game and what we saw from the Jets, what were you expecting to hear from Scott Arniel after the game, and was his tone different?
It was. Now, admittedly, my questions can be a mouthful sometimes, so they may not always yield the hotcake response. But Scott Arniel was more calm than I anticipated. He was more willing to break down pieces of the Jets game. I put it to him that, look, Mark Scheifele's line has been great this season, but they haven't been good this road trip so far. What do they need to do better? And he said, hey, look, the whole team's got to be better. They've got to do what the whole team needs to do, which I thought was a balanced response. If he was all fire and brimstone, he could have gone after his first line for their defensive performance. He did say they need to recognize when it's not going for them, that they've got to get those details right. But it wasn't a carve job at all, and I respect that. I think that was wise, but it was unusually calm. Did you get what you looked for, what you wanted? I asked him. He said, no, not really. Like, that's understated.
It was very understated. And listen, I mean, there were shots of him on the bench. I mean, I'm sitting with the guys watching the game and going, oh, man, he is pissed. But I think, there is a semblance, especially after the way that he felt and what he had to say after the San Jose game, of maybe dialing it back a little bit. And that often is, the sign of a coach that realizes that the team is in maybe a bit more of a fragile moment right now. And, it's kind of interesting because the timing, this coincides with Adam Lowry's return, who's the captain, who's sort of getting back in. And obviously you've got Cole Perfetti, but there are a bunch of moving pieces right now with the team. It really does show just how much, and I mean, this is the case with a lot of teams, but I think especially the Winnipeg Jets, it will go as far as their goaltender, who was brilliant on Friday night, and that top line will take them. And when they're that off and you're losing that battle significantly, it's a tall task for the rest of the lineup to make up for it, even when they're at their best, and I don't think they were at all on the weekend.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I thought Lowry's line was pretty good last night. I thought the Taves line was pretty good last night. I think it was it 6-1 in shots and by the Jets when the Taves line was on the ice. That was solid. But to speak to Cole Perfetti after the game, he didn't feel it was quite as dominant as that shot clock looked. There were moments they had it, moments they didn't. The thing about those guys, even like they're playing well. I'm talking about the second period shift where Lowry's line creates chances for Niederreiter and Iafallo, and then they hand it off to the next group. They're doing some good things out there, but you can only go so many games without scoring. You can't win 0-0. And eventually that's going to have to change. I have patience for Lowry coming back from what he's come back from, but you can't win that way. You can't win 0-0. And Winnipeg is missing that sort of second wave of offense that it's had for a number of years. It is missing secondary scorers who are as good as top line scorers. But I think that its middle six is going to be okay when things get going. I really think that they're going to find it. They're also losing the special teams battle right now, which has not looked good. And that kind of brings me to Luke Shen, who got burned for both of those power play goals, though plenty of Jets got burned. I don't know. I think secondary scoring will sort itself out, even as I complain about its absence now, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Cole in his first game back, you mentioned, maybe 95 times out of 100, he's burying that play from Taves. Just goes to show, he still has that vision. And it does, I've been kind of talking about how exciting the notion of these two guys playing together once they get used to each other. And we saw, I think, a couple of glimpses of that last night. But again, the total package wasn't there. You mentioned special teams. Just thoughts on the power play, who I think is in like a 1-for-17 funk right now.
Yeah, they haven't scored on the road trip. And I don't think they scored on Pittsburgh either. So you got to go back to the Chicago game. And that's not the norm for this group. They fall into 13th in the league, which is not the worst place to be falling to, still kind of in the top half. But it does show that they haven't been productive. Kyle Connor, who's just an incredible offensive player, hasn't scored a power play goal since 2024. That's one thing that you can look at. But right now it's not looking that crisp. The puck's not getting moved around a lot. They're not stretching teams out as much. The Velarde net side stuff, teams have found answers for it, and that's not clicking just at the moment. They are getting chances from time to time. So it's not like they're going to go 0 for forever. But this is a unit that can win games and pull things out when the rest isn't working. And they're just not doing that right now. They're looking a little off.
Murat Atesh for The Athletic with us here in Winnipeg Sports Talk. Murat, and listen, it's easy to sort of overreact to a couple games, but, the Jets were playing two of the more up-and-coming, young, fast teams in the NHL, and at times over the course of the last 6 periods, they really did look a step behind. Part of that may have been just not being up to their standard, but Kevin Cheveldayoff was on this road trip. What do you think the general manager was thinking about his team looking at these last 3 games in California, starting with the Kings game, which, to be honest, I don't have much bad to say. That could have gone either way. That looked a lot more like the Winnipeg Jets. But going up against these 2 young teams that'll skate the lights out all night long on you, do you think he has any takeaways about tweaks or maybe concerns that are growing?
I mean, I'm not in his head, so we don't always see eye to eye on player Ravel, and he's the professional, right? I don't know, but my suspicion is that part of him wants to see his full lineup and is maybe waiting for Dylan Samberg to return before making any declarations on what his group can get to. He's a patient guy. I don't think he's the type to overreact to a few games here or there. But even then, there's some concerns on this roster that probably go beyond that. And Neil Pionk hasn't looked particularly good. There's that kick play that he just about fell over on that turned into a rush against. Logan Stanley's often outpaced him in the top 4, and that's a concern, no matter how well Stanley is playing relative to his career average. You got Luke Shen a step behind. That speed's not there. You can't play fast in transition when you dust the puck off before your breakout pass, or you're a step slow in your movement. Fleury's been a bit chaotic. Dylan DeMello got split with Morrissey by Leo Carlsson for a slashing penalty. Crazy good play. Kreider just bumps it to Carlsson flying through the neutral zone. They can't keep up to the speed. And I've tried to put it to Scott Arniel a few times, like, hey, like, how's the pace? Are you guys keeping up, all this sort of stuff? And he says, look, the NHL is fast. Don't give San Jose special credit. Don't give Anaheim special credit for this. The NHL is fast, and we've handled that before. We've got to be able to do that. I don't think they're doing it right now, and that leaves holes. And those holes are probably also there when Dylan Samberg comes back, as much as to bring it back to what you asked. I think Chevy will wait this out and kind of take a good, solid look at a healthy version before he's committed to saying these guys aren't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the team can certainly change the narrative in a hurry with some strong performances over the course of the next 3 games in Vancouver, Seattle, and Calgary. But this certainly would be a low point early in the season with this 3-game losing streak going on. The one other thing that I think maybe kind of highlighted the fact of how off the Jets were at times was just how incredible some of these young players on the 2 teams that the Jets played this week looked. I mean, that Anaheim lineup, listen, with 7 in a row, they'd just beaten, like, that was the crazy thing about last night's game. If you just watched that game and said one of these teams played in Vegas last night and went to overtime, you would have thought the Jets, not the Ducks. And I mean, they were full marks for it. And my God, that's Celebrini. What an incredible player he is.
Yeah, I mean, this is the way of the NHL right now. It seems like these teams are ahead of schedule, but that's because these young guys are playing so well. Celebrini in a 2-way capacity at that. Leo Carlsson, they love everything about him in Anaheim. I was talking to Eric Stevens of The Athletic last night, and like, they believe in this guy. They believe in him to be a 2-way player as well. The speed that they play at is incredible. Even some of the other youth, like Beckett Seneca, has really opened up a lot of eyes. Paragols has fit in on his line really well. Cutter Gauthier, the famous Philadelphia malcontent who sort of forced his way to the Ducks, looked like he was playing with better pace than a lot of Winnipeg Jets last night. Celebrini in San Jose has help. And the NHL is getting faster. Winnipeg is the oldest team. I'm not sure that they're the slowest team, but they're not full of burners. They're missing some of their faster players, and I'm just thinking about Morgan Barron when I say that. And they're not quite a complete team just yet. I worry. I don't think this is it, so there's no fire and brimstone coming from me, but I worry that one of the reasons they get burnt so badly in the second period sometimes isn't because of irresponsible line changes or bad habits or what have you. It's just that they can't keep up. That the second period and all that transition play with the long line change, that's an efficiency contest, and that takes speed, and maybe they just don't have that, and that would need to change. I'm not ready to throw that one in, but that's a concern when you see them get out skated like they've been.
I imagine there'll be a big-time challenge from the coach to the team to get ready to put their best foot forward against the Canucks. I actually had expected Hellebuck to play last night and Comrie to go against the Vancouver Canucks. We saw Eric Comrie last night, who was fine. Maybe it wasn't his best game, but I mean, certainly that was a game where it was pretty clear who the better team was last night. Hellebuck, I think we were looking, is like 17th in minutes played. I mean, is this a new way of doing things for the Jets as far as the goalie distribution of playing time?
I mean, if that 17 number, wow, that shocks me even. And I've been watching Eric Comrie play games, like that would be a sea change in terms of Winnipeg Jets goaltending. And if that's the case, and if we see it throughout the year, credit to them. I think that they've tried a lot of things. They've tried Hellebuck against the world, Hellebuck believing that he's got to do it by himself. They've tried that realization where he made it in the playoffs where, hey, I got to be more part of the team game. And he said a lot of things. One thing that they haven't tried is getting into the playoffs in a better rested condition or without 60-something games. That would be cool. I'll also mention that, Comrie does have family out this way, and his dad was at practice on Saturday, and I think I saw Mike Comrie at the Kings game as well. So if you're looking for just one game to get him in on this trip, maybe that's why it became Anaheim and the OC.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking right now. I think it's 16th right now, but behind like Bob, Lyon, Vamilka, Vasilevsky, Ottinger, Kemper, Knight, Stolers, Gustafson, Shesterkin, Dostal, Wedgwood, Wolf, Saros, and Allmark. I mean, and early on, and listen, it does make sense. I mean, this has been a topic that we talked about beforehand, that it seemed like they didn't. And listen, I've always been one to say, hey, put your best players out there and let them play. But I guess, with what happened in the playoffs last year, they might be looking at handling things a little bit differently, as much as he might be pounding his fist on the table saying, get me back in the net.
Yeah, like I have argued that, look, you're going to have crap save percentage if you protect the net front as poorly as Winnipeg has done in recent playoffs. But we have not seen any amount of load management really for Connor Hellebuck, even as he argues for 70 games that he wants to be the old school workhorse. I think it's worth trying. I think in a year where you're expecting him to be in the Olympics, where you're expecting him to play games there, and the year is just so condensed, it makes sense if that would almost be an exciting development. And if he struggles again in the playoffs, then we can wash our hands of it and say, look, it wasn't rest or not rest or what have you. It's something else, or just one of those crazy things that happens. And even knowing that would be a little bit better. It's nice to know Winnipeg's giving itself a chance to find out.
Murat, Morgan Barron's still week to week. I guess there's no real update on him. Cole Koepke, is he hurt? He wasn't in the morning skate, wasn't in the lineup last night. To be honest, I mean, he didn't seem like a guy that probably would be going out of the lineup based on play so far. What, you hear anything on him?
Yeah, I'm not aware of a Cole Koepke injury, so I don't know. There could be something I didn't see in that previous game. All I remember him from that Sharks game is that great chance he tried to pull it across. He might have had, I wasn't in his skates. I don't know that exact angle, but I think he had net to shoot at. And it looked like he was sort of just trying to force one in there with what would have been a brilliant move.
It's funny you bring that up because, yes, the point, if you stop the play when he gets the puck on a stick, I mean, I can't be the only one that had absolute deja vu and flashbacks to Mason Appleton in Game 6 of the playoffs, getting the puck on a stick with that wide open net, and then obviously it not going in. It was an interesting decision to make, and we went around. Potentially it happened on that. But just, often guys, even if they are going to be scratched, they'll be out in the morning skate and be around. And apparently he wasn't there. So just wondering if there was anything on that. Oh, what have you thought about him so far this year? I mean, obviously we don't spend maybe a ton of time talking about that fourth line, and Morgan Barron had been such a good guy. I guess my point is he didn't seem like a candidate to be coming out of the lineup. Just thoughts on him so far.
I've liked him, to be honest. I wouldn't have scratched him for scratching's sake or what have you. I think that Cole Koepke's work rate has been really good. I think his speed's been really good. He's created scoring chances. There's been like a grade A per game in the last little while, partly shorthanded where Tanner Pearson helped him out against LA, the chance against San Jose there. And it's a good idea. It is a really good idea to go cross body on that and go against the goalie's momentum. But it's a good idea if the goaltender's a little closer, right? And I think that that's maybe one of the differences between a depth player like Koepke and, say, Kyle Connor, who would be able to have the idea and then see what the goalie's giving him and sort of adapt midstream. I think that Koepke had made the great idea and then committed to it even anyway. That's my thought on it. I think that there's been a lot of good play from him. I think he'd be a perfectly solid fourth liner, even when Winnipeg gets healthy. And I've generally enjoyed his work rate.
Murat, you've got a piece up at The Athletic right now today on the kind of tough weekend, talking about the one-on-one meetings. Kyle Connor's quoted in there. He, of course, is a big part of that top line. What was his mood like after the game last night, and what did you get out of the Jets' top scorer?
Yeah, well, we talked about sort of how the Ducks beat Winnipeg in transition, and Connor was calm too. He said, well, early on we did do a couple of good things. There were some moments and all that, but they did beat us in transition, and sometimes we lost our F3, and sometimes we got beat in a board battle, and then that turned into transition against us. And he said, well, it wasn't, as a result of that, it wasn't one thing that we need to do. It's actually a whole bunch of things that led to all of those Ducks rushes. He also said that the Jets forwards want to take time and space. Everybody wants to do that away from puck carriers, especially on the PK where they got burnt a little bit. And he said that maybe they've got to take about 10% off. They might need to calm down a little bit, I think is what he said, and just get those reads dialed back a little bit and not get stretched out and not get pulled apart. Seems like the effort level was there from Connor, at least in terms of how he saw it. I thought he was quick in trying too. I felt bad for him on the second PK goal. They were passing in a triangle around him, and then Shen ended up kind of right behind him out of position. It seems as though the answer is a lot of things are going wrong all at once in terms of transition, and they've got some of their reads to clean up on the PK too. That's what he was saying. Well,
They'll have another crack at it tomorrow to get back in the win column against the Vancouver Canucks in Game 4 of the road trip that has not yet produced any points, 50% of the way through. Murat, thanks so much for doing this. Travel safely. We'll see you back in the Peg when the team returns home.
Thanks, Hustler. Thank you.
Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, your local leader for over 40 years in the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. As you know, they are captain approved, proud supporters of the Jets, and now the leading residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical company in town. Now, while you might not be having a big commercial need for Clean Line services, you never know when you're going to need them, especially for plumbing mishaps, and that's why Clean Line, much like Adam Lowry has the back of the Jets, they've got your back 24/7, 365 with emergency service available. Find out more on all of Clean Line services online at cleanline.ca. We got a big one tonight and Sunday as well. Man, it's going to be a fun night. Maybe a great time to get together with your gang of Boston Pizza. See the Jets play a couple exciting young teams and take in the new flight club menu, I should say. Pizza flights, wing flights, chicken bite flights, and new fry flights available. And you'll have a chance to win Boston Pizza's grand prize trip for two to California to see the Jets play the Ducks February 27th, including flights, hotel, and amazing game tickets. Just speaking of BP, here's a little save the date for you WSTers. I believe it is Wednesday, December 17th. We're going to be doing a little holiday gathering / Jets watch party at Boston Pizza, just working on the exact location. But December 17th, St. Louis Blues, 7 o'clock game. Hopefully you'll join us at BP. And hey, if you are staying at home to watch the game, you can always order online at bostonpizza.com and get it hot and fresh to your door. Of course, many of you love the Olympic jerseys. Myself, not so much. I can tell you very soon they're going to be coming in at Royal Sports, because if it's a Jet jersey, if it's a Canada jersey, if it's Jays merch, Royal Sports is the place to get it all right here in Winnipeg. The biggest supply and stock of literally everything, which is a perfect time as we get ready for the holidays, whether you're looking for the Jet fan in your family, the Bomber fan, someone with an NFL team, a different NHL team. They've got it all at Royal Sports. You can take care of everyone on your list that's a sports fan in one spot. And of course, they're also the hockey superstore for over 50 years with everything from full equipment to pucks, stick tape, skate sharpening as well. 750 Pembina Highway, Royal Sports. Follow them on Instagram as well at Royal Sports Winnipeg, especially heading into the holidays for latest merchandise drops and sale information. All right, just before we bring in Murat, it is Friday. I know Hacksaw wants a 1919. Let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, great stuff with Murat. We're going to bring in Connor and Remo in a minute and kind of do a bit of a weekend wrap, a little more on the Jets, the Grey Cup, the weekend in the NFL, Monday Night Football. But let's fire off the Why Not question of the day for our friends down at Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. The question was today, how concerned are you about the Winnipeg Jets dropping 3 straight games? And we have done it in poll format in the chat. So let's get into our fan feedback from fansfirst.ca, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market, where what you see is what you pay. Rider fans looking for tickets to the sold-out Grey Cup, I would also suggest heading over to Fans First. And again, no added fees. The price that you see for the ticket, that is what you'll pay, and that's all that you will pay. All right. The feedback from the gang is this. Not worried, 21%. Mildly concerned, 53%. I think that's fair. Pretty concerned, 25%. And just 2% are hitting the panic button right now. We'll talk about it right now, but if you want to get more thoughts in the chat, drop it in there. Fan feedback, as always, brought to you by Fans First. By fans, for fans, no fees. Check out the site today at fansfirst.ca. All right, let's get the boys back in here. And the dynamic duo from our post-game coverage last night, or maybe you caught it this morning when you got up. Remo, of course, back, and now Connor's here. Connor, that was probably one of the less fun post-games that you've done so far this season. Not a great run for the Jets on this West Coast road trip to get going.
Yeah, these past 3 post-games, Huss, have been not very fun to stay up for. Not a lot of goals for the Winnipeg Jets to talk about. And last night was no different. I will say, like the Anaheim game versus the LA game, Anaheim is a much more entertaining team than LA. So it was more entertaining in that sense. But yeah, this road trip is really giving the Jets some issues. And before the season, you maybe looked at San Jose and Anaheim and Vancouver and Seattle coming up and even Calgary at the end of it and thought, wow, this is going to be a road trip where the Winnipeg Jets can really make some hay. But quickly, they're 0-3, struggling to score goals. Top line has gone quiet. Secondary scoring is not picking up the slack. They're getting some reinforcements back with Lowry and Perfetti getting into the lineup, which is great to see. And you hope that Barron, Nyquist, and Sandberg can return soon. But yeah, this is ugly right now for the Jets. Unable to score, a lot of turnovers, odd man rushes. Not very Jets-like what we've become accustomed to over the past 3 years or so.
No, bang on. I mean, these last 2 games, they've just been so off of what we're used to seeing from them. And, I thought Murat said it quite well, especially last game. I had a lot of time for Lowry's line. I thought Taves and Perfetti had some moments. But, the top line has just looked off for the last couple of games, really kind of starting maybe in LA, but you kind of understood with Kings playing with the lead how difficult it was to get through the neutral zone. But they've just been a step behind in both the San Jose and Anaheim games, Connor.
Yeah, they have. And I like you said, I think Murat put it well where, it might help for someone else to score a goal now and then for the top line to maybe not feel as much pressure. But when the top line's at their worst, Huss, what do they look like? They're turning pucks over. They're not tracking back. All of these things are happening right now, and it's resulting in a Winnipeg Jets team that's already struggling with forward depth, lost Nikolai Ehlers in the offseason. Lowry wasn't back yet. He's coming back, but clearly rusty. Same with Perfetti, only his first game back. A team that's clearly struggling with secondary scoring and secondary offensive, chance generation. They need to lean on that top line, and when the top line's not firing, it's a big concern. And it's something that we talked about all throughout the preseason, all throughout training camp, even early in the regular season with no Lowry and Perfetti up front, was when the top line's not going, where's the offense going to come from on this team? Cole Perfetti's back. He'll definitely help with that going forward. But this is a concern for the team right now. And I thought the message was sent Friday night in San Jose. And the Jets didn't respond. They came out and lost to the Anaheim Ducks on Sunday. And this is something, Huss, another thing that we've come accustomed to the past 3 years is the Jets not beating themselves. And when they do lose, they bounce back. They've kind of beat themselves these last 2 games, and there hasn't been the response yet. I mean, there was maybe the 10 minutes in Anaheim after the Kyle Connor goal where there was a bit of a response. It looked like there was going to be a game, but I'm still searching for the response. I'm searching for this team not to beat themselves with turnovers and odd man rushes, and we'll see if that's the case tomorrow night, Tuesday, against the Vancouver Canucks.
Well, and Reem, I mean, that sort of, I imagine Scott Arniel's sort of feeling the same way. And I mean, it speaks to, where his head was at, that he went and did one-on-ones with every single player on the team in the off day. And I think that's what made the start in the first period that much more disappointing. I mean, the amount of odd man rushes that the Anaheim Ducks had, a very skilled team, was crazy compared to what we normally see from the Winnipeg Jets. And that's not a team you want to offer up those sort of opportunities to.
Yeah, and credit to the defense. They showed on the broadcast, DeMello, Fleury, Morrissey, each managing the odd man rushes and doing a pretty good job of preventing chances. But you just can't keep doing that over and over. And it was startling to see that on the Jets end. Normally they're sound defensively, limiting chances. And I think that's what you liked about the LA game, where it was a pretty even game. Maybe not the most exciting, but you didn't have those chances, and it was just like wave after wave from Anaheim. And then when they took penalties, maybe being a bit slow to the puck. I'm thinking about the Hayden Fleury second to the puck, takes slashes a guy's stick out of his hand, and you saw Anaheim just whip the puck around on that power play. Find Leo Carlson for an open shot and puts it past Comrie. So the Ducks really took it to him. And I think when I look at this poll, how concerned are you about the Jets dropping 3 games? And 51% say mildly concerned. I think that's fair. Coach would probably is a bit concerned knowing that he had individual meetings with each player on Saturday.
Yeah, and obviously Chevy on the road trip. I mean, I asked with Murat, and I think he fairly said, it's hard to get into someone's head. But, if you're in charge of building this team, and you see the way these younger, faster teams are just running and gunning and the skill that they have, I do wonder whether the takeaway is just that, hey, this team needs to be a lot better and they were way off of their game, or, do you need to tweak things a little bit and get... Now, listen, I mean, Anaheim is an incredible story. I mean, they've won 7 in a row. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They're first in the Pacific Division. And San Jose's been beating some good teams too. But it just goes to show, I mean, there is a level of parity right now in the league where you have to be ready to play at a high level each and every night. And if you're not and you get away from the things that make you a good team, winning is going to be tough. And Connor, I mean, tomorrow night in Vancouver against a Canucks team that's certainly had their fair share of ups and downs so far this year, I'm sure there'll be a challenge made from the coaching staff for this team, namely starting with the big boys up front that get the majority of the playing time and the responsibility to be a much better version of themselves than we've seen so far on the West Coast.
For sure, Huss. And I'd like to see a step forward as well from Perfetti and Taves and that line as well, maybe getting on the score sheet. The Lowry line I thought was great against Anaheim. I thought maybe the Jets' best line in terms of working, trying to get the momentum back, keeping the puck below the goal line, all of those things. I gave Alex Iafallo my hardest working Jet on the post game. I thought that whole line could have got it with him, Niederreiter, and Lowry. And Huss, you talk about tweaks, and the concerns for me sit with the secondary scoring and the team speed. These are things that we talked a lot about all offseason when the team lost Nikolai Ehlers. Where's the secondary scoring going to come from? Where's the team speed? How is the team speed going to stack up against some of the faster teams across the NHL, like Colorado, who's at the top of the standings and just pumped the Oilers 9-1? Those were things that were concerns, and they're kind of showing right now. As for the defensive side of things and, defending the rush and all those things, I can't really analyze that or make a big conclusive takeaway on that until Dylan Samberg comes back. Like, if the Jets could trade for a 6'4", great skating defenseman who's money at defending the rush right now, they'd do it. And hey, he's coming back. in the next week or so, hopefully. And that'll really shore up a lot of those issues. So for me, when you're talking about, concerns that I'm not hitting the panic button by any means, but concerns that I'll be watching for through the month of November, it's the secondary scoring, it's the team speed. When they go up against these fast teams, are they getting skated out of the building? Can someone other than the top line get going? And the top line obviously has to get back on track if the Jets are going to start scoring some goals.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about Samberg, and you're right, I mean, he can't come back soon enough, but I'm not sure that would have changed anything this weekend. I mean, when you're turning the puck over in the neutral zone the way that they did, when you're giving up 2-on-1s, I mean, to be honest with you, with the amount of odd man rushes, I thought Morrissey and DeMello actually played some of them really well. It's just that you can't be putting yourself in that position to start with. And then obviously they got to find a way to score a few goals. And nothing could help the cause more than maybe getting one on the power play, Connor. I mean, this has been a real drought that has sort of been magnified by the offensive cold streak.
Absolutely, Huss. And on a night last night where the penalty kill has been money so far this season, but Anaheim goes 2 for 4 last night. The Jets go 0 for 4. They had moments in the game where they're down 2 and getting a power play. Last year, maybe their power play would have scored and gotten them back into one of those games. And they were top 3 in the league early on this season. They've slid a little bit. I'm still super excited to see what Cole Perfetti can add to that top unit as another playmaking, shooting option in the middle of the ice and kind of roaming around. But last night also, Huss, I don't know if you caught this, there was a TV timeout, and obviously in San Jose, there was the message sending, and the first power play of the game started with a 2-on-1 for Anaheim. And I think they got another 3-on-2 on that power play as well. And then the top unit came off and the second unit came on. The next power play, there was a TV timeout, which is almost certainly, the top unit is going to come out because they're getting a break in the TV timeout. Even if they were on the ice, they have 2.5 minutes to stand at the bench and drink some water and be ready to go for the power play. Out of the TV timeout, Scardinal started the second unit in a 1-goal or 2-goal game last night. I thought that was a bit of a message sent. You saw the odd man rushes, not just at 5-on-5 when the top line was on the ice, but also on the power play. And yeah, it would be really nice for the Jets to get a goal on the power play right now. A unit that was so good last year and is getting Cole Perfetti back to that top unit. So I think I'm not quite down on them moving forward. I think there are better days ahead. But right now, there's no doubt that it's costing them games, costing them goals, and they need more as they go Vancouver, Seattle, Calgary, 3 teams that they'll need to score against if they want to win.
Well, we'll be locked in on that tomorrow. Of course, we'll have post-game coverage after the game and be there for you in the AM on Wednesday, and then recap it all on Wednesday's edition of WST. Guys, we do have our Grey Cup matchup. Connor, what an awesome day of playoff football on Saturday. I mean, both games coming down right to the end, and really any of the 4 teams could have easily won those games. It really came down to a couple of key plays. The play that Rambo made for Montreal to get that first down, extend that drive, give them a chance, I mean, to me was the difference. And I mean, listen, we'll be replaying that last 3 minutes of the West Final for years. Well, they'll be doing it in Regina. They probably won't want to remember it in BC because of how many opportunities the Lions had to ice the Riders, and yet it's Saskatchewan playing in the Grey Cup on Sunday.
Yeah, you talk about how incredible the games were, and they absolutely were, but I can't get over kind of the heartbreak for the 2 teams that lost, Huss. If you told a BC Lions fan going into the game, Nathan Rourke's going to have the ball in his hands with 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes left, and if he gets a couple first downs, you're going to the Grey Cup, they would have taken that 100 times out of 100. Nathan Rourke going to win the MOP. Like, he's the best quarterback in the CFL, and he couldn't do it. Saskatchewan's defense came up with a big stop. Trevor Harris, 39 years old, continues to get it done. And that game-winning drive was awesome for the Riders to punch their ticket to the Grey Cup in front of a sold-out Mosaic, crazy crowd. And then Hamilton. I mean, we went through, I wasn't here for all of it, but we in Winnipeg went through the long Grey Cup drought. I can kind of, relate to them and what they're going through right now in their long Grey Cup drought. And to host these final, to have the bye, even though Montreal was a favorite, to have it be that close and lose on a game-winning field goal stings for Hamilton fans. So it was an awesome weekend, so much drama. Even that Hamilton game with Davis Alexander tweaking his hammy in the fourth quarter, he's kind of making plays on one leg. Like, it just added to all the drama. So great weekend of CFL football. And as much as, I don't like the Riders, obviously, and the Alouettes knocked the Bombers out and beat them in 2023. So I don't love the Alouettes. It's a great matchup for the CFL, for the league. Harris versus Alexander. I think it's going to be an awesome game. And hoping that we get some great weather. I'll be going to the game and hoping we get some great weather so that these two teams can, not maybe play in the frozen snow, but it looks like it's going to be decent as we look ahead.
You know what, Reem? It looks like it's going to actually be decent this whole week. I guess we're at -2 right now, but starting Wednesday, sunny and 5, Thursday, sunny and 6, Friday, 9, Saturday, 5, and then 1 degree. I mean, if we're getting a plus number for a Grey Cup in Winnipeg for the game on the weekend, I think that's a big win for all parties involved.
Yeah, I just go back to the last time the Grey Cup was here. I think it was a bit later. They've been moving the season up earlier and earlier, and I froze. And I think you have issues with people maybe not wanting to go to the game, and obviously play issues when it gets that cold. So if we get plus weather on Sunday, and you can see these teams at their best, that's pretty awesome. So I'm really excited to seeing the type of show Winnipeg puts on. I feel like a bit of a Grey Cup veteran now. I haven't gone to the last 2. I mean, not as many to the people who've gone to 30 plus in a row, and you'll run into those people at the festival. But I'm excited for Winnipeg to be the host, and it should be really fun with two. I mean, I think these are the two best teams. Montreal, while they didn't get the bye, they were favored over Hamilton, and Davis Alexander was injured for most of the year. In Saskatchewan, they pretty much ran the table after having great first halves the last couple of years and then really falling off. So credit to them for maintaining it throughout the season. But Saskatchewan seems pretty well positioned here to take this one. And when you go to the festival, I always but you see Saskatchewan, they've been around for like 100 years. Have only won 4 Grey Cups. Like, how is that even possible? So not quite a Grey Cup drought like Hamilton, and I know they wanted it so bad. I did listen to the broadcast. They were really wanting Hamilton to win on radio. But Saskatchewan, if they get a huge celebration there, again, lots of green, sure. And I think that I agree with you. It makes it more fun. Love them or hate them.
Yeah, listen, I was kind of pulling for them to win because I want this to be the best party possible in Winnipeg. And, while we may have a great rivalry on the field, off the field, Rider fans make the event great. That's why Labor Day is so much fun. That's why the banjo is so much more fun. So come on, come all, and don't expect Bomber fans to be cheering for you on Sunday. I imagine there's going to be a lot of Rider fans cheering for the Riders, and a lot of Bomber fans that have Grey Cup tickets cheering for Montreal. I am surprised, though. Like, this game right now at Coolbet, I think it opened at 2 or 2.5, and it's a Saskatchewan -3. And I was talking about with Dusty earlier, the only thing I can think of is that they're cooking in Davis Alexander not being at 100% right now, because to be perfectly honest, I mean, these two teams playing on a neutral field for a championship, I'd have a hard time making the argument that Saskatchewan should be the favorite, period, never mind 3 points.
Yeah, that's the thing, Huss. Like, I think there's kind of the risk built in there, because what if Davis Alexander, that final drive, like, credit to him, he did it on one leg, essentially. Like, he could move, but not well. And what if he looks that way to start the game and then has a moment where it's 2nd and 4 and he needs to pick up 5 yards to pick up a key first down in midfield late in the first quarter, and he tweaks his hammy and he's done. Like, I think that MBT time. And it's MBT time, right? So I kind of think that that's baked in a little bit. I agree with you that if Davis Alexander didn't tweak his hammy at the end of that Hamilton game, and these two teams obviously playing on a neutral field going into the Grey Cup, I would have taken Montreal. Now it's a little bit more of a question for me. I think the Riders should be favored, maybe not by 3, maybe not by that much, but I think that the number you see is because of that risk that if you're taking the Alouettes to win, you're also betting on Davis Alexander making it through the game, and we don't even know if he's going to be practicing this week, Huss. He said he's going to play. I believe him that he's going to play, because that's just the kind of player he is. He would play on one leg kind of thing, but I don't know how limited he'll be, and there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot more uncertainty with the quarterback situation in Montreal than Saskatchewan, where Trevor Harris is good to go, and he feels that it's their time. So we'll a lot of storylines heading into this Grey Cup.
Well, you know what? He maybe should feel like it's their time, because, I mean, they pulled a freaking miracle out of a hat. Like, I still cannot wrap my head around the decision to kick a field goal from the 5-yard line, down 7, inside the 3-minute warning. And the fact that they got the ball back and punted before that happened, I mean, how they pulled that off is, listen, it's credit to Trevor Harris, because that was about Remis as nails a final drive, as you will see, because they had no more outs. It was do or die at that point, and credit to them for getting it done.
Yeah, Trevor Harris, he's been a great quarterback in this league for a long time, and when he has time, he has protection. I think of them signing former Bomber Jamarcus Hardrick and the impact that he's made on the O-line there. He can lead drives, and BC's defense was a question all year, and while it held for most of the game at the most critical time, unfortunately for them, it did not. They drove the field and were able to score a touchdown, kneeled, grabbing it, holding it in. And again, maybe some controversy among BC fans, but that was the call on the field. It stood, and what a celebration there at sold out new Mosaic Stadium.
Yeah, well, we'll be getting things going for Grey Cup Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right through the game, and lots of fun stuff on tap for the Peg over the course of these next few days. We'll get to the NFL. We got a big Monday nighter we'll get to in the Coolbet lines in just a minute. Connor, when are we going to finally get a close game in the late afternoon slate? I mean, these 325, the 3 and 325 games for the last couple of weeks have just been massacres. I mean, yesterday, Seattle was up 35-0 before they blinked. Your Niners were down 21-0, and Detroit scored early and often and never stopped at all against Washington. Not a lot of drama, but pretty convincing wins for both the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Detroit Lions in that late window.
Yeah, Huss. It was funny. At one point, the scores in all three of those games were essentially the same. It was some variation of 41-20 or 42-22.
Yeah.
It was all in the same range. Like, it was all a 20-point blowout with one team scoring 40, one team scoring 20. I have good news for you, though, Huss. Next Sunday in the afternoon slate, Seahawks-Rams. That should be a very fun one. Those two teams.
Chiefs-Broncos, too.
Chiefs-Broncos, yes, with the Broncos, who are frauds, but still should be a good game. But the Seahawks and Rams look unstoppable right now. I mean, the Seahawks just went up so early and often on the Arizona Cardinals that score flatters the Cardinals 44-22. The Niners, like I said on this program last week, just so hurt on defense, and the Rams just really had whatever they wanted. If they wanted to run the ball for 7 or 8 yards on first down, they could do that. If they wanted to throw a screen to Puka Nacua, they could do that. If they wanted to throw deep to Devontae Adams, they could do that. They could do whatever they wanted in that game, and credit to Mac Jones. I mean, the Niners kind of staged a bit of a comeback, made it a 1-touchdown game at one point. But yeah, that late slate was pretty brutal. The early slate was a bit better. I mean, Patriots-Buccaneers was a game that I was locked into and was a fun watch. But then it's more the fallout of some of the games. Like, you see Brian Daboll, Giants head coach, being fired after they blow a 2-possession lead against the Chicago Bears. And the Vikings and Ravens was kind of an ugly back and forth game, but the Ravens winning and the Steelers losing on Sunday night puts the Ravens in a good spot to overtake the division. So a very, very interesting, some good games, some really bad games, week 10 in the NFL.
Well, I'll say this about the Vikings. They absolutely blew it yesterday. That was a very winnable game. I thought their defense played pretty well. They held Lamar to some field goals and kept them in the game. I mean, to have 8 false starts in a game is outrageous. To do it at home is unforgivable. I think that was the most false starts for a team at home, I believe, since 2007 or something like that. I mean, they were just off and reaming. I don't know if you were catching that game. Like, I don't know whether it was something to do with J.J. McCarthy's cadence, that he was tricking his own lineman or something like that. But that's something they absolutely have to figure out. And then he made a few ill-advised throws. I mean, Justin Jefferson had 12 targets and only 4 catches. So, a little bit of defense, a little bit of off with the QB. That was a tough one. And you thought, oh, that might be the most disappointing loss of the week. And then you get to the Buffalo Bills, who go into Miami coming off that big win against Kansas City and just lay an absolute egg against Miami, who's pretty much been left for dead right now. And Reem, it's funny, I was looking at the odds for the MVP at Coolbet, and Josh Allen, after the win over Mahomes and the Chiefs, went all the way down to the favorite at plus 150. what a difference a week makes. He's now 6th. And guess who is the favorite to be the MVP right now?
Oh, my God. I just looked. I can't even believe it.
Drake May of the New England Patriots right now after that big win, a head-to-head win in Buffalo. Listen, and their schedule is so easy the rest of the way. I mean, this could be like a 13-4 team, 14-3 team. We'll see if they take care of business. So the AFC, very interesting with some upstart teams. I mean, say what you will about the Broncos. They've got a great record. They've got their hands full next week. But New England and Mike Vrabel, I mean, what a story that team is right now. And I think you have to realize they're a pretty well-balanced team with a young quarterback that's playing at an MVP level, and that makes them for real.
Yeah, they were the Patriots fans were chanting that in Tampa yesterday, MVP, MVP, as they won 28-23. You know, for Buffalo, I don't know what it is, but Miami's always been a tough place to play in the AFC East. I remember when the Patriots, when they had their Super Bowl eras, they always struggled in Miami, and the Bills' run defense hasn't been great, and Devon Achane, I mean, just shredded them yesterday. Massive day. And when you said disappointing days, Huss, you know, you said Buffalo, which was, the biggest upset, but I got to give a shout out and pour one out for the Carolina Panthers, who I took in my survivor pool.
Me too.
They had the big win, they've had a big win, against Green Bay. And here they are at home hosting the 1-win Saints. And their offense was so pathetic, turning the ball over multiple times, losing 17-7. They're still not a great team. So, I mean, that happens, but that was a tough one.
I was nervous picking them in a divisional game at home.
Yeah.
But then I had no worries. They brought in Carolina Mike to do his hit single. If I had $150,000 live at the game, and they still lost. Felt terrible for Carolina Mike, who had a big week after going viral last week with his song. But 5-4 I think was a little deceiving for that Panthers record, but still, at home against the Saints, you can't lose that game. Jets won. How about Cleveland? Cleveland was down 17-14 in a game, and the Jets had 8 yards of offense at the time, or 8 passing yards, I should say. A little bit of rushing, punt return, kick return, new different ways of finding ways to lose in Cleveland. And as you mentioned, the Giants blow it, and it costs Brian Daboll his job. He is out with the Giants. Some talk that maybe John Gruden would be a perfect spot. That Gruden in New York would be amazing and great for the league too if he got back in. Tonight we've got the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. By the way, the Steelers are on the list now. I mean, I mentioned to you before, the picks were pretty good. I had that anchoring a bunch of parlays. It nuked them all last night, which was a terrible way to go into the Jet game, which didn't make me feel much better. But tonight we'll get to this game in just a minute and take a look at the hockey. Listen, before we do that, folks, don't forget, you've still got time, but not much, to get your tickets in for the HSC Millionaire Lottery in support of Manitoba's Hospital, the Health Sciences Center. Someone is going to be Manitoba's next millionaire, but you can't win if you're not in. So get your tickets now at hscmillionaire.com to be eligible for one of 5 grand prize options. The final sales deadline is midnight on Thursday. So get your tickets today, and maybe you'll be getting the call and have a choice of one of 5 $1.5 million dream home packages, 4 in the greater Winnipeg area, 1 on Vancouver Island, or $1.25 million tax-free cash. It's all available in the biggest lottery of the year, all in support of the Health Sciences Center. Again, hscmillionaire.com. Get your tickets. Make sure to check out the 50/50 and Extra Cash Plus options for more great ways to win. And if you do want to get them in person, pop by London Drugs or your local Red River Co-op location. All right, let's get to the Coolbet lines. Connor, interesting matchup tonight. We've got the Packers as a 1-point favorite, but this is basically a pick. Eagles minus 105, Packers minus 103. I'll be honest, I don't have a big read on this game. Looking forward to watching to it, but I can make an argument based on the situation for both teams. Any thoughts on tonight's game?
Yeah, I'm curious as to what the Packers are, Huss, because like they've had some games this year. They lost to the Browns, they lost to the Panthers last week, they tied the Cowboys, and their wins are over the Steelers, who are performing the ultimate like Jekyll and Hyde right now. What kind of team are they? They beat the Bengals. I think that was Joe Flacco's first start. Was that game. So I don't know. They beat him. They beat the Cardinals, who aren't very good. They beat the Lions all the way back in week 1. That was easily their most impressive win, but they haven't had a very impressive win in a number of weeks. So this game is going to tell me a lot about the Packers. I think the Eagles are a contender. They're going to be there in the NFC no matter what. The Packers are going to be there too in terms of like in the playoffs and playing big games down the stretch. But if they win tonight, the Green Bay Packers, that'll do a lot for me personally in terms of how I'm viewing them amongst the elite in the NFC. Because right now I'd put the Lions and Eagles maybe in a different tier than the Packers. But again, if the Packers can beat the Eagles head to head tonight, that will definitely change things. So what kind of Jordan Love do we get? He's up and down all season long. Can the Packers run game get going against the Eagles? How does Jalen Hurts look on the road against Micah Parsons and this Packers defense? Very intriguing matchup and one of the better primetime games of the year, Huss. 2 of the premier teams in the NFC duking it out on Monday Night Football. I'm excited.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, Philly looked like, I mean, they started off 4-0, and they beat the Chiefs, the Rams, and the Bucks in 3 straight weeks, all games that they could have easily lost and didn't look particularly good offensively doing it. And then followed that up with losses to the Broncos and Giants. And you're like, what is up with this team? Well, they get the win in Minnesota against the Vikings. They back that up by smashing the Giants. And it sort of feels like Philly's getting their mojo back a little bit. But this will certainly be the biggest test since those early games this season for them.
Yeah, maybe a bit of a Super Bowl hangover to start for Philly. And I agree with Connor that we're really not sure about the Packers. But Philly, they're feeling it. Seemed like A.J. Brown has got whatever he needed to get sorted out, and their defense has been good. So I see the line changing. What Green Bay's favored by a point here, so basically a pick 'em. This should actually be a pretty good game compared to what you saw from the 3:30 window yesterday.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, listen, there were 3 good teams that just pounded, opponents that just weren't either at their level as in makeup or due to injuries. I'll give Connor's Niners the credit for being a better team than they showed, but they're rough. So basically, a pick 'em tonight: Packers, Eagles. Just while we're on the NFL, we just mentioned Drake May. Here's your MVP odds right now. Drake May is now the favorite at plus 275. Matt Stafford has gone from plus 550 to plus 325. We didn't mention Jonathan Taylor. We should maybe take a quick moment to shout out him for his performance yesterday. He is putting together a pretty incredible season, but yesterday's game might be the best one. Over in Berlin, Taylor puts on a show, 32 carries, 244 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He's playing against him in fantasy. He put up 54.5 points. Not good for the Huss Bus here. But Taylor is now 5-1. And it takes a lot for a non-quarterback to win, but as different guys have sort of fallen off and taken a step back, Mahomes and Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor's right there. But now Mahomes is at 6-1, and we can't forget about Sammy Darts. Sam Darnold leading the Seahawks to another big win yesterday. He's in the mix. Josh Allen at 7-1. Then a big gap. Hurts 20, Jordan Love 25, Lamar and Herbert at 30. Chiefs are still the favorites to win the Super Bowl. Plus 550. Eagles next at plus 750. Detroit and the Rams at plus 850. Bills at 9-1. So futures are updated. Let's get over to the NHL for tonight. And I've saved this topic until the end. But we got the Islanders and Devils tonight. I do like the Devils. We got the Preds and Rangers. Can the Rangers finally win at home? 0-7 with 5 shutouts. Incredible. They're a minus 189 favorite. We got Florida and Vegas a little later on. Vegas minus 135, Florida plus 115. And the Edmonton Oilers, prime game tonight, against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And there's no other way to put it. The Oilers got absolutely humiliated by the Colorado Avalanche. Did you see that, Connor? 9-1?
Huss, I did. Did you tune into our friends at Edmonton Sports Talk after the game?
Of course I did. I got home at about
that was
2 in the morning. I'm like,
watch.
I got to get in. I think the post game is now at like 5.6K. Usually it's probably 4 times what a normal show is for them right now. But, I mean, that was unbelievable. And you know what? If you listen to 31 Thoughts, Elliot talked about this today. But the last shift of the game, I remember we were out, with a bunch of friends at the bar watching the game, and the thing was over, but we're still sort of paying attention. In the last minute, Colorado was pressing so hard for the 10th goal of the game. And, Friedman talked about, it seemed like they were really trying to embarrass the Edmonton Oilers. They did a good job of it, 9-1. But they were not done. And I don't know, is there a big background between Colorado and Edmonton? Was it just some sort of a statement? All I know is that the Edmonton Oilers got embarrassed in that game. And you'd have to think there's a big response coming tonight. If not, they've got big things to worry about.
Us and the Oilers, after this game, are heading on a 7-game road trip. Must win tonight. Must win tonight. You're at home against the Blue Jackets coming off of a 9-1 loss. Dude, they absolutely have to win this game tonight. And Colorado, I know we've made a lot of their overtime losses so far this season, but they've lost 1 game in regulation, and we're 16 games in. And they just, pumped the Oilers 9-1. They are that was a statement as much as it was a statement for the Oilers, where they didn't show up, they didn't have any pushback, as Rick Bowness would say. It was a statement for the Colorado Avalanche that they are undoubtedly right now the best team in the NHL. Going on the road against the Edmonton Oilers, this big matchup, McKinnon versus McDavid, and winning by a score of 9-1. And a lot of those goals, I know goaltending is a hot topic in Edmonton. A lot of those goals, whether it was Skinner or Pickard for the first 4 or the last 5, didn't have much of a chance on. I mean, they were 2-on-1s. McKinnon was open, multiple players with 2-goal games, multi-point nights. It was crazy to watch, because I was watching that game hoping it would be one of those 5-4 overtime classics between McKinnon and McDavid. But they just ran him out of the building, Huss. And tonight, on Prime, at home against the Blue Jackets, coming off of that game, I'll be tuning into the Edmonton Sports Talk post game if they win or lose tonight, just because, I don't know. It's like as important as a November game gets. You got to respond. You have
Their
to
show
respond
is so
from that.
funny because Tommy's got a place right across from the rink. So he and Belzy went and fired up, and then Reed Wilkins, I guess, did the post game, and they were all in there. Remis, it felt like an emergency EST meeting in the aftermath of the 9-1 defeat. But I mean, listen, they've just been sort of puttering along at 5. I think they're on pace for 82 points right now, which you'll miss the playoffs by about 15. Now, we're used to bad starts from Edmonton before, but I mean, the Stanley Cup hangover for a couple years, I think, is real, and just absolutely no juice, no fight, no emotion in that team. And that's got to be concerning, even if you've got 2 of the best players in the world and we're still very early.
Yeah, and I think you've just seen players leave Edmonton over the last couple of years, and the talent level just isn't the same. Going back to losing Holloway and Broberg to St. Louis, and last year they were able to patch it up with Kane, with Corey Perry, who's actually doing pretty well here with LA now that he's back from injury. And they've just losing players, and goaltending has always been a question mark. Even when Stuart Skinner has played well, you're wondering, okay, can he do this, for the long term? And as well, I mean, Evan Bouchard, not playing his best defensively, and you look at the defense. I mean, is this a Stanley Cup caliber defense here? So I think they've certainly lost a lot of talent the last couple of years. And this is kind of what it's been for Edmonton. What was it, 2 years ago when they were losing at this time of the year? The Sharks, and they just haven't been that great early in the year, and they kind of picked their head out of their ass in the second half and play well on their way to the Cup final. And that is what happened the last couple of years. So I'm not.
Somewhere Jay Woodcroft is sitting back kind of chuckling, going, been here. Yeah. I'm familiar with this.
So and then I see, I see BA Split saying, bet your account on the Oilers. I agree. I think the Oilers will certainly come back. And I am seeing Columbus, their lineup tonight, a lot of game time decisions. They had a bunch of players miss skate with the flu, with illness. So I think the Oilers are in a good position for a bounce back tonight on Prime. As Connor
we were
said.
all game time decisions for the show today, so I can kind of understand where they were at. One thing I think I can safely say is that when we do the Chuds Power Poll, Chuds Power Sports Power Poll later on this week, Colorado will be at the top, the Ducks will be on, and the Jets and Oilers will not be in the conversation based on what's happened. Hey, speaking of Chuds, got to give a quick shout out to the Derminator and the great team at Chuds. They were awarded the Dealership of the Year by Snowman, the provincial snowmobile organization, at the 50th anniversary dinner in Gimli on Saturday. So no surprise, but shout out to Dermot and the great team at Chuds Power Sports for being the Dealership of the Year. Look forward to that NHL Chuds Power Sports Power Poll later on this week when we figure out who the top 5 is. Unfortunately, there'll be a few teams taking up spots because the Jets were in it last year, and it'll be pretty tough after the week we've had, Connor, to have them still in that top 5.
Yeah, for sure. And Huss, the biggest thing that I agreed with and was a main point on that Edmonton Sports Talk post-game show was how okay it seemed they were with losing 9-1 on home ice. You know, like Sean Bell and Tom Gazzola were both saying, like, fight, hit someone, slash someone, show anger at any point that you're losing show that you care at any point that you're losing 9-1 on home ice. Like, it was wild. And that third period, I mean, maybe there wasn't a chance for them to come back and win, but there was a chance for them to show some life, show some compete, show that they care, like you said, Huss. And they just didn't. Nathan McKinnon scored, I think, 25 seconds into the third. And like you said, Colorado kept their foot pressed to the pedal the entire game, all the way to the final shift. So I think the Edmonton Oilers tonight are going to show that they care against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And who knows, maybe this illness running through the Blue Jackets room is really going to help the Oilers get back on track because they need it. I know they've been in bad spots before, but a 9-1 loss at home ice, you definitely got to respond from that.
Yeah, it doesn't get much worse. I mean, Dusty said it's one of the most embarrassing losses in the history of the franchise. And Reem, I was thinking back to, the last 15 years of Jets hockey. I can't think of really anything close to anything like that, on home ice for the Jets. I mean, you've lost some bad games, you've played poorly, but I mean, that was just an absolute beatdown for 60 minutes. And yes, you're right. They were looking for some pushback and they didn't get any. I think we'll get that tonight. The Oilers, back to the Coolbet lines, minus 172 favorites. Like them, like the Devils over the Islanders at minus 154. And I'm actually calling a big night for the Rangers. I think the Preds are exactly what this team needs at home. Going to take them on the puck line tonight at plus 130. Now, if you just put those together it's an even plus 500. But I did send it over to the fellas. And I believe, or maybe it's up in the combo cards.
Ride with Huss up here, is that it?
Yeah, there it is. So it's boosted to plus 575. So if you like Rangers by 2, Devils and Oilers tonight, jump on that in the combo cards and get a nice boost from plus 500 to plus 575. They got a couple other fun ones for tonight's game. Love Island, Jordan Love, over 2.5 rushing attempts and over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Sack lunch, Carter and Parsons both to get over half a sack. The ground and pound touchdowns for Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley. And then the PPR machines, A.J. Brown over 6.5 catches, Dobbs over 5.5 catches. They got the Lamplighters, the points from the point, Apple picking season. A few good ones in the exclusives, all up for you there over at Coolbet. By the way, make sure to use the promo code WST. If you haven't played a Coolbet before, we'll double your bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. And of course, you can take care of all of our specials. I'll have to cook something up for tomorrow. Looking for a big bounce back from the Winnipeg Jets. on that game tomorrow night. Of course, we will be off tomorrow observing Remembrance Day. Thanks again to all our veterans and everyone that has paved the way for us to live the lives we live here, lives we live here in Canada. We should always be appreciative 365 days a year, but tomorrow's a special one. So Poppy's on 11 a.m. tomorrow. Of course, there'll be services here in the city, and then we'll be back to the normal schedule on Wednesday, as well as dropping a new edition of CFL 110 on Wednesday as well. So lots coming up this week. And then, guys, firing it up to welcome everyone across the country, both media and fans, for the game. Remember, we got the media party on Wednesday, and then it's basically on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So much happening throughout the city. And just how about the response? There he is. You got the festival.
I got the festival
Connor's
guide
got the
here.
hoodie.
I'm looking at the guide. I'm ready. Connor's ready too.
Ready to go.
Well, it sounds like Winnipeg's ready too, because I was talking to some of the folks from the organizing committee on the weekend, and everything is sold out. I think they're going to look to try to get additional tickets based on venue sizes for some other things, but the response to everything has been amazing. And I'm sure there's some Bomber fans that are thinking of selling their tickets. That was good news for them with the Riders winning, because I have a feeling that secondary market's going to have a little bit more pop over at Fans First now that the Riders are coming to town trying to win it in the home of their arch rivals.
Yeah, Huss. I went through my first Grey Cup experience. Well, okay, I was at the Grey Cup when it was here in 2015 or whatever, Henry Burris versus Mike Riley. But, the weekend leading up to it, at that time, I wouldn't have been old enough to appreciate what it was around the city. So, look, I went through my first Grey Cup last year in Vancouver, and Vancouver nailed it. And I'm expecting the same here in Winnipeg, and excited to get down to the convention center. I know Remis is probably flipping through the pages there. They've got the map at the convention center and the festival guide, all of those things. And yeah, the media party Wednesday, there's so many other, there you go. Which floor is which there? All the fun rooms and Bomber House and stuff. It'd be good.
Do you have any key information you want to let us know, Remo, after going through the Grey Cup Festival guide?
I got to peruse this thing. I know that I'm going to the CIBC Taste of the CFL with my wife on Friday, so I'm really looking forward to that event.
What time is that?
I think it's at 6. I'll have to confirm, but they got the team party rooms. I love how they do it with the party rooms with all the banners and the themes, a number of great bands as well. So I can't wait. They got the family. I got to find time to take my son to the family area at U of W.
That's at UW?
UW's got the family area. I'm looking forward to that. And I don't know, we just saw the Blue Jays 50-50 go to crazy numbers. The Grey Cup announced their 50-50 today with a $250K pot guaranteed. So we'll have to... I'll have to get a group together. That's how they... I don't know. I don't know about...
Tickets,
I'm a 50-50 guy, Huss, but I'm not sure if I'm like how it's going, how they basically incentivize you to spend the max.
Buy 1 million tickets.
Yeah. I was I'm just one guy. I have to pool 5 friends so I get the best deal?
That's the move.
That's
definitely
the move if you're going to do it. Yeah, I agree. So, I just want to I don't want to do that, though. I just want to go buy a ticket. I don't have to, do math deciding what the best deal is. Look, I don't mean to dump on it.
It's even more challenging for Jet games this year.
Well, that's just my feeling as an individual. I know credit to anyone, all the charities, and all this, but that's just how. Yeah, but Jet games. What is Jet games? It's crazy now.
Yeah, it's you can buy one for $10, or you can get
44s. I don't know what it is.
4,444 for
I don't want to sit there and do math. I just want to get a 50-50, maybe win, probably won't. Have some numbers to hope for. Too much math.
Well, jump in on the Grey Cup one. It'll be big. It will definitely be big.
I'll get some analytics going on how many we should buy.
Hey, one other thing just on the way out. Huge congratulations to Winnipeg hockey legend Jennifer Botterill, who's going into the Hockey Hall of Fame today, along with the class of 2025. Jennifer will be joined on the women's side by Brianna Decker, Danielle Savageau, builder Jack Parker, and pretty star-studded lineup of ex-NHLers going in. Big Z, Zdeno Chara, Jonathan Toews, former teammate with the Blackhawks, Duncan Keith, Alexander McGillney, and Joe Thornton, all going in. And, of course, the Sharks were celebrating Thornton on the weekend before his induction today.
Yeah, we're getting old, us, when Joe Thornton and Zdeno Chara, guys that we saw their whole career, Duncan Keith into the Hall of Fame, Alex McGillney as well. So this is, and shout out to Brianna Decker, Jen Botterill, and all the inductees. This is a pretty stacked class. They had the Hall of Fame game in Toronto. I know Ken Wiebe is there covering Jennifer's induction. So this is definitely exciting. And it's funny, Duncan Keith going to the Hall of Fame, a longtime teammate Jonathan Toews suiting up for the Jets yesterday. Their coach, Joel Quenneville, coaching Anaheim as well. But this is a big class. Some legendary players for sure. So very exciting.
Yeah, Weber will have, I know, a piece in the Free Press on Jen's induction, a sit-down with her. And then I think Ken's going to be going from east to west and joining the team for the rest of this road trip. So we'll hook up with Ken a little bit later on today on the program. All right, gang, that is going to do it for us. Fun show today. Thanks to Dunk for popping on. Of course, Murat down in Southern California. Again, we are off tomorrow recognizing and respecting Remembrance Day, and we'll be back on Wednesday. But after the game, make sure to fire up WST post-game coverage. Will be there for you maybe an hour after the game or available in the morning when you get up for your ride to work with Connor Rabchak. That is going to do it for us. Thanks again to all the sponsors that make the show happen every day, and all of you having fun in the chat. Shout out to the podcast listeners. Michael, Connor as well for popping in. For the gang, I'm Andrew Paterson. Have a great one tonight, and we'll be back with our regularly scheduled show, Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, Wednesday at 1, right here on WST.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.